And I'll help out
Thank
too
you,
with
ma'am.
that.
Perfect. Okay, we're live. Good morning. Welcome to the Board of Behavioral Sciences board meeting. My name is Max Disposti. I'm the chair of the Board of Behavioral Sciences. Today is August 14, 2020, and the time is 8:35. This meeting is occurring at various locations pursuant to Executive Order N2520 dated March 12, 2020. Today's meeting will be conducted using the following guidelines. All participants will mute their microphone or phone during each presentation of the agenda topic. At the end of the speaker's presentation, the board chair will ask for discussion from each board member in alphabetical order. Board members will unmute their microphone or phone to comment. Upon conclusion of your comments, please mute your microphone. Board members who wish to provide additional comments should select the raise hand feature next to their name. This will alert the host and the chair that you have additional comments. At the conclusion of the discussion from the board members, the chair will ask for public comment. Members of the public on the Zoom platform should select the raise hand feature next to their name to indicate that they have comments. It will alert the host and chair you wish to speak. Please wait until you are recognized by the chair or the host to unmute your microphone or phone. Members of the public who are accessing the meeting through a phone will be asked for their comments following the comments by those attending via the Zoom platform. At the conclusion of the discussion period, the board chair will call for the vote, if necessary, or move to the next agenda item. All in attendance should keep their comments specific to the agenda item being discussed. An opportunity for public comments for items not on the agenda will be also provided. Please be advised that during this comment period, the board cannot engage in discussions or take actions on any matter that is except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. We will now establish the quorum. Christina, if you can please do the roll call. Thank you.
Good morning. Dr. Leah Brew.
Here.
Deborah Brown.
Here.
Max Disposti.
Here.
Susan Friedman.
Here.
Chris Jones.
Here.
Thank you. Kelly Ranasinga.
Here.
John Stovek.
Here.
Wendy Strack.
Here.
Christina Wong.
Here.
And for the record, Crystal Anthony, Ross Ehrlich, Jonathan Maddox are absent. We have a quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you, Christina. So at this point, looking at the agenda, we're pointing out items that need to be removed from the agenda. And I believe I have item 16 that needs to be taken out of the agenda.
Yep.
And should be it, I believe. Yes. We're now moving to the public comments of the Board of Behavioral Sciences. I just again remind you that on these items, board are not discussing comments except for suggesting that to go into a future agenda item. On this public comment session, I would like Kim Madison. They would like to share something with us. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Max. And good morning, everyone. So it's with mixed emotions that I share with you today that I will retire at the end of this year. The November board meeting will be my last meeting as the executive officer for the Board of Behavioral Sciences. During my time as the board's executive officer, I have been extremely privileged to work with such a talented group of people, the board members, the board staff, representatives from our professional associations, educators, licensees, registrants, and all our stakeholders. And together we have truly accomplished so much to benefit the professions we regulate and to protect the public. And I'm very, very proud of the work that we've all accomplished and the culture of collaboration that we've created. While I miss the work, the board staff, the board members, and all of you, I'm able to retire with the knowledge that the board is in great hands. The board has an extraordinary management team and staff who are dedicated to continuing our work and spirit of collaboration. And it's really made my decision to leave easier. There have been many memorable moments in my 25-year state career, and serving as the executive officer for the past 10 years really stands out as the most memorable. It's been an amazing opportunity. I'm very grateful for the experience and the friendships I've made along the way. And I've truly, truly enjoyed my time with the board. But finally, I really need to, and most importantly, thank my family for their love and their support. They're my inspiration and my greatest source of strength, and they're absolutely the best. And to each of you, this has been an incredible journey for me. And I want to thank you for being part of it. So, to the next chapter I go.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know it's a very emotional moment, so thank you for hanging there. Any of my peers and board members that would like to share something before we go in the actual public session of this agenda item? Anyone? Dr. Brew?
Kim, I so appreciate everything that you've done. You were around when we brought on the LPCC and all the excitement that was part of that. and you've survived through the 2008 crash with that going on. So I just have the utmost respect for you, and you've done so much to get the board in such a good place.
Thank you.
You will be missed, and I really wish you very well in your retirement, and that you can spend many, many years enjoying it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I see Christina Wang.
That's gonna make me cry.
So Kim, I think, I think we have been through, a lot of the journeys. So, I think, being the longest serving members, I think we went through a lot of different, peaks and dips. And so I just so appreciate, you taking the board, from, for the major change, and just really work hard, to not only, really enhancing, the standards, for the California mental health professional, but also bring it to the, to the nation, so, our, I think, California, becomes like a very shining star, not just because of the license portability bill, but, really our presence, in our national professional association. And so, so to me, you're so close to my heart also, not just about your accomplishment, but, your support, when I was a chair, also, the guidance, like the personal journey that, we share. And so I just really want to appreciate you, congratulate you, but at the same time, it's like, dang, you should not leave. So
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Anyone? Oh, Steve.
Yeah, so Kim, on the board side, we hear the board members, all the laws that you definitely deserve. But thank you. I know I can speak for the staff. You're such a great, compassionate leader. It's just been amazing working with you. And I mean, having you to guide us through everything. Thank you. A great teacher, great listener. You've really, like everyone is saying, you've really driven the board to a new level, and hopefully all of us can keep it going on. I'm definitely gonna just brain dump from you for the next few months, but and hopefully I'm praying we can get a good celebration. So might be a Zoom one, but thank you.
That's
and
okay.
You'll hear some more thanks from me, and you know how I feel.
I do.
They're
Thank
sweet,
you.
aren't you? So but thank you very much, Kim.
Thank you, Steve. I see also Christina Kitamura.
Hi. I feel like I've been on this ride with you. I'm right there next to you this whole time that you've been in the seat. And you haven't, you faced it all. You've done it all. And I don't think there's any more challenges left that you can't tackle. So I just want to say congratulations. I'm really happy for you. I'm sad for us, but I'm really, really happy for your new journey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm a Zoom call away, guys.
I don't see any hands at the moment. I would like to share something.
You have Roseanne too. So.
Oh, Roseanne. There you go. Hi, Roseanne.
I just want to second what Christina said. I've been here almost 10 years. Kim's a big part of the reason I've stayed. I've learned so much from her, and she's been a great leader. And yeah, you're really going to be missed. But we so happy for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roseanne. Well, I just wanted to share that. I know we have also a brand new board. Almost 70% of the people that are here didn't have to yet had the opportunity to fully experience your leadership in all extent. But for me, I've been here almost 4 years. I have to say, Kim, I've seen an incredible transformation within the BBS. Also, in since day one, you made yourself always available. It doesn't matter if we reach out to you via phone, via text, via email. You're always there, not only to answer our concerns, but also our licensee concern. Many times people reach out to us, we forward those emails to you, you're right there on top. I also see that we were fortunate that the budget changed the past few years, so we acquire more staff. The reducing time for servicing our licensee has been really dropping every month. The efficiency of the staff, the leadership, and we see how the staffs are all very cohesive, which is very, very important in a leadership position. I just can't go on for hours, but I can share with Steve, even though I didn't have the privilege to be so close to you geographically speaking, but your kindness and care for the people around you is something that really, really, in this profession and in any profession, is really needed. You brought an incredible positive and healthy dynamics within that. So I really thank you for all the help you brought to us, to me personally. And we're here also because of the work you've done. So thank you so much, Kim. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I know we can go this on and on, but you deserve it.
It looks like we do have somebody, Alma's, and Deborah. Alma's, Deborah. Say something?
Me first?
Yep, Deborah.
So, Kim, let's see. I didn't realize when I first got on the board that you had only been there a year. And wow, how things have changed in what's going on for, I know Christina and I, 9 years on this board. So we grew up with you. And had you not been the quintessential leader that you were, I don't know where we would have headed, but you made us feel so comfortable. I thought you had been doing it for 20 years. You never let on that you had only been there a year. And that shows your strong leadership. And I think above everything, you're so knowledgeable. And it made it so easy to be on the board and take your direction. And when we had questions, you had the answers because of your background and the knowledge that you had for being with the state in enforcement and in budgets, made the transformation, I think, all the easier. And so I want to thank you for that. It was a privilege being the chair and getting to know you and working together with you arm in arm for 2 years. So much has been accomplished. I mean, like Leah and Christina, we've been through how many sunsets and how many strategics, and it just gets better and better and better. And you are leaving the board and your staff in good hands, and it's because of you. You have created that culture, and it shows. It shows a lot. And I think that's going to make it easier for, well, Leah's leaving, but it's going to also be easier, she probably would agree, for us to set sail into the horizon somewhere because of all the work you've done. We got a brand new board, but guys, you are in great hands, absolute great hands with the staff board. And I know that when Steve has a question, Kim will be there to help him answer it if he doesn't know the answer. And so will all the other staff members. I just don't see you going off in a kayak and never coming back. I think you love this so much, and it's been most of your life, not just this board, but the work with the state of California. And I think you'll be around. And like you said, you're a Zoom away. And if there is a retirement party, I sure hope that we're all invited, and so that we can say all this all over again. But Kim, you're the quintessential leader and a woman. And so you are a real role model for other women out there. So for that, I really, really thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you. Any other board members? And for the board members, by the way, to make it easier, you can raise your hands here, like live, or whatever looks like live. It still will manage the traffic for the people that are actually on public members. I see Chris Jones raising.
I want to let you know that before, I'm new to the board, and before I ever got here, BBS was this entity that lived in Sacramento that was this ominous thing that governed all of us licensees, and then when I met you doing the LEP test prep 3 or 4 years ago at CASP, you humanized it for me, and really became a mentor and helped me to see like what really good work that BBS does. And I appreciate the mentorship and the encouragement to get me to apply to be on the board. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting a little choked up.
Sorry.
No, it's good, and just getting to know you as a person and seeing all the wonderful things that you've done. I truly appreciate it, and I'm excited for you and your next journey. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris Jones. Christina, I see you again. Christina Wong.
Yeah, I forgot to say one thing. So Kim, you probably, one thing that I'm really just impressed is like, I will miss when I pick up the phone. No, when I call you, you'll always pick up the phone. I think this is a very high bar, to set for the other people, but also, just tell me that, your availability, and your presence is just amazing. So I just really want to publicly acknowledge that, because not all the email, it's that accessible. Thanks for allowing me to make that little extra comment.
It's okay. Thank you. I'm sorry, Kelly.
Tim, I'm very sad I will not be able to work with you. I know we've only known each other a couple months, but on behalf of all of us here in Imperial Valley and in our rural communities, I want to say thank you for not forgetting us. We know that BBS has always cared about us rural folks too. And thank you. When I came on the board, I was like, oh dear God, what have I done? And you made me feel very welcome and very safe. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Kelly. Wendy Schreck.
I just wanted to, I'm new to the board as well, and I just want to thank you for making the transition an easy one. And I want to echo what everybody said about you being accessible. As if I'm a public member, so I don't come from the profession. So any questions that I've had or just confusion about requirements or procedure or anything, you've always been there to answer the questions, and been warm and welcoming, and we're going to miss you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing any other board member. Oh, Susan.
Oh, you're mute. We got to unmute you.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Susan.
I am a new member too of the board, and I joined the board at a very crucial time because Kim called me right away, and she was willing. Nothing was going to stop her. She was going to get on a plane and fly to Los Angeles so that we could meet. And we had it all planned. The only thing that didn't work is the day she was supposed to come was the day the governor basically declared a lockdown. So Kim and I have never met personally, but I have had the great, great pleasure of being able to talk to her on the phone and ask a million stupid questions, because I am not a professional, I am a public member. So, and every time I have a question, she was always there and she was always available to answer it. And I will really, really miss having her around, because she is such an important part of this board. And she has really made my feeling about this board just so important to me personally. And I think that she is the kind of person that we will always miss because of her knowledge and her accessibility and her sheer love of the work that she does. So thank you so much. And I hope this journey is a really beautiful one for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Oh, yeah.
I believe now, Steve, if you want, you would like to open, we're still on the public comment session, so the public can make comments on items not in the agenda.
So then I have Alma's. You can say something if you would like.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking my call this morning and my comment this morning. My name is Almaz, and I am here to just speak about a couple of things that have been concerning to me regarding BBS. Safety is the number one concern for me. As I would say to my patients, you always want to feel safe wherever you are. So I haven't felt safe with being at a test center with a mask on while pregnant, while being very anxious about the tests. And so that recently happened. And I think that that can be avoided by online proctored option. And I did fail the test by 2 points, and I contacted ASWB or Person's View, and they said that California is one of, if not the only state that doesn't allow retake within 90 days. So it's up to BBS. So I just want to see if, I know you can't speak on any actions, but I wanted to bring it up to your attention if there's any plan in the future to allow us to take it sooner than 90 days because the process is nearly almost a year to take it again. For me, at least it was. And so those are the two options. The safety I'm concerned about the safety of my fellow social workers and MFTs and others, if there's proctored option available in the future, and also if there's a retake of the test if you missed by a few points. Other states allow 6 or less, so I don't know if California is talking about this or not. Those are my 2 points. Thank you again. I hope I didn't take too much of your time.
It's perfect timing. Thank you so much for being here today. Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
And then Christy Berger. Christy.
Sorry, unmute.
Okay. Oh, there you go.
Thank you. I just want to echo what everyone has said. I have worked for BBS for a very long time and have never experienced having someone like Kim in leadership. She's been so incredibly supportive, the culture she's created, and having a boss that always does the right thing without fail has been just incredible. So thank you, Kim.
And then
Thanks,
Anahita.
Christy.
Oh, thank you, Christina.
Anahita, you're up.
Hi, good morning. At this point, I probably sound very similar to what everybody is saying, but I think that just speaks to how genuine you are, and you are the same person with every other individual. And I speak on behalf of, I think, everyone at the AG's office, that you've been an absolute pleasure to work with, and to represent this board has been wonderful with you at the helm. And to be honest, your staff is amazing. They are just like you to deal with. They are great to deal with. And that comes because I think they've got a good leader with clear goals and has set the tone. You're always accessible as an EO. As busy as you are, you do always pick up the phone and you get involved, and you know just as much about these cases as your analysts do, which is amazing. So thank you so much for being the amazing leader you've been, for making it so easy to represent this board, and for creating a culture of just a wonderful environment and staff. And we look forward to continuing to represent this board, because we know you've made your mark. So thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, Anahita.
Thank you, Anahita.
And then I have a Diana.
Hi, Steve.
Hi. I was like, that's funny. Welcome.
Thank you. So for those of you who do not know me, I am Kim Madson's daughter. I'm our oldest, and she shared that she was making this announcement publicly today, and so I'm hopping on to support. And I'm emotional because I've watched my mom go through this for 25 years, and the journey that she has gone through is admirable and amazing, and I can't believe what she's done with the time that she's had. She has been an amazing example as a mom and a leader, and I'm watching from afar and seeing the impact that she's had with her work has been surreal and inspiring. And I have the privilege of being her age and having the opportunity to retire. I can only hope I make a fraction of an impact as to what she's made for you guys, because it's surreal and amazing, and I just can't. I can't put the words quite in the detail because of the emotion. But I want to congratulate my mom because she has done an amazing thing. And selfishly speaking, I am very excited about the time she gets to spend with me and my son, who is very much a light in her world. And I cannot wait to see what she does with this extra time that she's acquired. And so, great job, Mom.
Thanks, honey.
Thank you for coming today. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
And then Jan Lee.
I need more Kleenex.
Jan Lee, you can.
So Jan Lee Wong with NASW. I'm still around, but hopefully not too much longer. And by the way, it's really a hard act to follow the daughter. Also, there's actually no greater appreciation than there is children for their parents. So no matter what anybody says here today, that's got to be one of the greatest tributes.
Yeah.
I can't say enough about you. I already said something the last meeting I was at. You're a good listener. You're not defensive. You're proactive. You're responsive. You're inclusive. You do a lot of outreach, very professional, very ethical. You're fair. You also did some very important things. People have already mentioned that you brought basically a new license online and smoothed out all the incredible bumps. I know all the staff went through some crazy times with the new license, and now it's smoothly running and a great addition to the BBS. You moved to a new office. That's in itself a major task. Went smoothly. Again, if anybody can say how great you are, it's the staff, and they've already said that today, and they will continue to say that. And then, of course, all of us, but especially state agencies, had to deal with COVID-19. And the workload involved with COVID-19 in terms of managing an office, closing an office, reopening an office, all of us know is especially hard. And so you did it so well, so smoothly. And even though we've got some problems at some other sister state agencies, not a problem with the Board of Behavioral Sciences. So again, another great tribute to you. So I hope, as everyone says, that you stay in touch. I know that people will be calling you because they're already calling me about the history and traditions and the culture. And that's one of the greatest treasures that you can leave behind for the people that follow you. So good luck in your retirement.
Thank you, Jan Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Wong.
And Becca Gonzales?
I'll start my video here. Hi, Kim. I used the wrong link. So I was one of the people who came in a little late, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on? Kim's retiring. Erin didn't tell me. She probably knew.
No, she didn't. She doesn't know.
Okay. You're way too young to retire. So of course I was shocked. But I want to concur with what Jan Lee said. You have always been really fair, and I've always appreciated how you treat all the licensees equal, but you also realize our differences and our unique perspectives. And I have seen you as being very accessible as a leader, and I've really appreciated having you as a leader. Oh, the only one I've been under. I know Jan Lee has experienced a lot of different EDs over the years, but you've always been in charge since I've been around, and I have been lucky, I think, for that. So I just want to say that, and then I have to pivot here really quick. I just I did send Kim a letter about that NASW National sent up to the ASWB about Pearson View. And so I just want to make everybody aware that NASW National has heard from many different states from their licensees who are concerned about taking the test in a safe manner, not being able to get testing dates, and that it is definitely a nationwide concern. And so, you know, we are hoping that something can be done with our licensees that are desperately waiting for a test. But anyway, once again, Kim, really congratulations, and have a good retirement. When you retire, which I guess is the end of the year, I missed that part. Okay.
Yeah,
okay, well,
November's my last meeting.
Okay, so we have you for a little longer. But Jan Lee, we keep extending Jan Lee, but he is actually, he didn't say, but he's going mid-September because we finally have a new ED, so you'll meet that person soon.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Hey, Viviana.
Hi, good morning. I just was making a general comment. I was glad to see on your agenda that you have continuing education for anti-racism training. I think it's imperative and important that we have this as clinicians. I know a majority of my caseload is Black or Latino. I myself am Latina, but I do not know the Black experience. And it's really important to understand how Native Americans have been treated in this country, the history of the Black experience in this country, and that impacts them generationally and today. So I'm really glad to see that this is something that you will be discussing. And I'm really for having this be a requirement for all of the clinicians that work with people in our field. I think it's necessary. A second comment I do have is it'd be great to have some guidance. I'm a school social worker. It'd be great to have guidance from the BBS in terms of size of caseload. I think these great laws that are being proposed by our legislature are wonderful. But I think individual districts don't understand when you're doing intensive individual or small group work, what that means, especially if you're holding a caseload. So getting guidance, I think, from the board as to what this could look like, I think could help districts understand the type of work we do better, and not leave it up to us clinicians having to constantly explain why we have to set a limit to how many we see in a given week or ongoing throughout the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Viviana, for your comment. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
And next is Rebecca Ruben.
Hi, board members. Thank you for having me, and congratulations, Kim, on your retirement. I am here again. I was here yesterday just to reiterate and request that you agendize the importance and emergency for online proctoring for all test takers in California. It is an emergency. November, even if Pearson VUE comes and presents, is not enough. We have people at risk, we have people scared, holding off on progressing in their careers, and who really need to take these exams, whether it's for employment or to continue to be employment in the future and continuing their employment. I really appreciate your time. I really press that this is an emergency situation. This is a pandemic. We expect the fall to be worse, especially with schools going back in session, whether college, universities, or secondary and elementary education. Thank you again for your time. I hope you have a great day and a relaxing weekend.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you so much. Anyone
else? We have Kimberly Miller.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, board, and congratulations, Kim, on your retirement. I was also here yesterday, and I just kind of wanted to add kind of an impassioned, my own self story. I don't know if it got mixed up with the things that I was mentioning about our continued fears of going to Pearson VUE centers, but I shared this with Rebecca Gonzales of NESW California, my concerns as a social worker working in the jail, as I had reiterated yesterday. And my concern is I told her that, I'm on my subsequent license right now, and I have been actively trying to pass this test since 2016 with interruptions. I took a bad fall outside of the jail in 2018, and I'm going through a lawsuit right now also with the city of LA because of the fall. And, it's put me out a bit of a distance more than I wanted to be. I never wanted to be at a 6-year thing. And what I'm up against is the Department of Health Services, whom I work for inside the jail, is very, very strict. And they walked me out last year because I couldn't get my license processed fast enough. Fortunately, BBS did get it through in 4 days and processed it online, and it was there, but not in time for them to decide to punish me for 2 days suspension when I return. Because right now I'm on long-term disability due to the COVID. My doctor won't let me go back to the job because of the dangers and risks. So my thing is the same thing applies of going to a Pearson VUE center. For me, I have a special accommodation, and I have been trying diligently now for the past 4 weeks to try to get a test date. And they told me they took my name, number, and my birth date and said they would call me back. I have not heard anything. There's no test dates available in my area. And for me to drive with my back is not good. So I'm imploring that, my subsequent license is up December 20th. And at that point, DHS could probably tell me I'm done. And that scares me. It stresses me out. And I'm sitting here trying to study, and I'm just kind of imploring that the board really hear our cries out for this change, because I could be taking that test probably in the near future if it was online. That's all I have, board.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you for your time.
Mm-hmm.
We have Jennifer Alley.
Good morning, everyone. Kim, congratulations on your retirement. I haven't known you for very long, but you and your staff were very welcoming to me when I got my position at Camp in December. And so just based on what you've said and Kathy's shock of when I texted her and said that you'd announced your retirement, she was like, whoa, wait, right? I mean, I think that a lot of everybody, has had what I believe to be true and kind things to say, because you were nothing but welcoming, and you have answered my ridiculous questions, both you and Roseanne, as I go through. So I do appreciate that. And I wish you all the best in your retirement. A little bit jealous, but I've got a few more years to go. So
Thank you.
It is what it is. I do have some general comments for this period of the agenda. One, we do want to see if BBS can consider, something in updating the licensing to an online forum, just given the nature of the situation that we're in with the pandemic. you know, the bar is doing that now for attorneys. We think that there could be a way to consider that moving into the future, mostly for the reasons that you've already heard from other speakers today, but mostly about availability and safety being the biggest concerns. And we'd also, when time permits, we'd like the board to review the advertising guidelines to kind of modernize them to reflect new media that's being used, i.e., you know, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and clarify what information, such as the license number, supervisor's information, should be included in those types of ads. We've just noticed that the new mediums are really becoming the new norm, and we just would like the board's direction or guidance on clarifying what needs to be included in those formats. And then we still continue to get questions for our associates that are working for their hours regarding option 1 and option 2. Specifically about option 2, is there any data available that you may have been collecting with people in option 2 and COVID? It's our understanding that there's a year for applicants to remedy, but we still haven't seen anything published. And so, I mean, I know this is a very challenging time, and we appreciate all the excellent work that the board has done, but we're just hopefully want to know if we can see anything in writing for that group of our associates. And that's all I have for today. Thanks for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Jennifer. Steve?
And then I have Cassandra.
Yes, hello, my name is Cassandra Flagg, and I am an AMFT, and I'm here to speak on behalf of us therapists who are wanting to request the BBS to offer online proctored exams, especially for people like myself who have an increased risk of developing dangerous symptoms from COVID-19 due to being immunocompromised. Been sheltering in place since March to avoid the dangerous symptoms that I've read in articles and in statistics. So I've completed my hours. I have been approved to take the MFT clinical exam. My goal is to take and pass the exam so I may get licensed, which would enable me to reach out and help more individuals and families in my community. And I work particularly in the special needs population. So I am extremely anxious and scared to risk my life to take the exam within a Pearson VUE test center at this point. So all the while, Pearson VUE has the technological ability to facilitate online exams. So please consider a request for online proctored exams. And thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Cassandra. Thank you. Steve, do you see anyone else?
I do not see any other hands raised.
Okay. I guess that will conclude our public comment section for items not in the agenda. For our board members, are any suggestions for the future agenda items? Ms. Rasinge?
Mr. Dispositi, I would ask that we add an agenda item to the board, if not pre-existing, that Pearson VUE be requested by the board to provide testimony on safety accommodations for test takers.
Thank you.
We've heard this, like, yeah.
Right. Wendy?
I want to echo what Kelly said as well, and kind of underscore some of the comments we heard today about maybe perhaps some of the urgency of that request. So I'd be willing to make myself available for a special meeting or something if we could get that conversation moving before November. It seems like we need to have the conversation and either provide the reassurance to the test takers that appropriate accommodations have been made, or we need to make sure that we make them. Also on the, I had some questions about some of the other things that have been raised today and yesterday about whether or not they should be future agenda items. So if this isn't appropriate for now, but there was a question about how telehealth hours are counted yesterday. So if there's a way to kind of shed some light on that and kind of educate us on how that process works and maybe how it's been changed by COVID as well. And then for the folks from camp also talked about the advertising guidelines. If we could add that to the agenda as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Wendy. Just to address some of the things, we just started, as you know, we are about to start our telehealth committee, which are also public forums where people can chime in. And those are the places where we officially work so that we can actually be accountable for the work we do. So I totally agree with what you said. And we're actually in my chair report, we're going to share with the public the different committees that have been formed. And my suggestion, since I'm next, I'm raising my hands, is that if we can instruct him, concording to what has been said by my peers, if we can instruct our testing site to send a statement in the meantime to also clarify, the reason why we can do this or why we cannot do this, the safety of the testing sites, really to address these issues that are coming forward. They are very legit. So I wonder if we can ask them to publicly address through their newsletter if they haven't done so, because I'm not aware of that, so that we can at least begin to tackle into these challenges, and perhaps we find out that certain things are possible, others are not. I think it will really help our licensee to wrap their minds about what to do or not, or if we wait any longer before taking a test. Can we instruct staff to do that?
We can do that. Yeah, we've been talking with them anyway, so
right.
We'll have them address everything.
Any other board members? Okay. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Kelly.
Mr. President, I would just amend my previous statement. I think that should have force of law behind it. I would suggest that we issue a summons for them to come to the next hearing.
They've been
I believe under government.
Yeah, I don't believe.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know they've been invited. I just think yeah.
Well, look, we're coordinating a meeting. They're going to be there next week.
Yes. Okay. We haven't received. I appreciate the sentiment. So far, we haven't received any challenges on their part about showing up or anything like that. So they will come. It's just that the last board meeting that we had was 2 weeks ago. We didn't have enough time to put an agenda item this time to prepare the item for the public. But they are
sounds good.
Yeah, eager to come. But I think before November, a statement that will begin to address these issues will really be helpful as you.
Good.
So, but thank you. Anyone else? Perfect. Okay, we're moving.
You hear Christina.
Christina. Oh, you're sneaking out of me.
No, I don't really have an agenda item, but I noticed that we haven't really introduced ourselves. So should we do that?
We should introduce her.
We can definitely do that in the next one. So thank you, Christina. I was focusing on my chair report where we are introducing also the new board members. So that's what we're going to do, but we'll do that next. Thank you. Thanks for bringing it up. So just to close this item, we're moving forward to the consent calendar. We have the approval for the proposal approval for the June 5th board meeting minutes.
I have a correction. I noticed that there is one board member missing from the attendance, so that will be amended today.
Okay, thank you, Christina. Can we call the vote?
Do I have a motion?
I'll move to accept the minutes in addition to the amendments.
Thank you, Christina. I'll second.
All right, and here's the vote. Dr. Leah Brew?
Yes.
Deborah Brown?
Yes.
Max Disposki?
Yes.
Susan Friedman?
Yes, if you add my name to the people who were there.
I promise I'll do that. Chris Jones?
Yes.
Kelly Ranasinga?
Yes.
John Sobek?
Yes.
Wendy Strack?
Yes.
Christina Wong?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Christina. We're moving now to the next agenda items, which will be my board chair report. And thank you, Christina, for the reminder. I was actually about to in our self-introduction, I would like to point out our two new board members that they are here today, that we are officially part of the Board of Behavioral Science. Is Kelly Ranasinghe and Chris Jones. So as we go around, I will invite Kelly and Chris to spend a few minutes to introduce yourself, not just as a public member or licensed member, but a little bit about yourself and you joining the board. Thank you. And we go around the way I see you at this point. So Kelly, you can go first.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kelly Renesinger. I'm a new member of the board. As a public member, I am an attorney and a child welfare law specialist working in a rural county. I also am one of the I'm a former president of the National Alliance on Mental Illness Northern Nevada and current leader of the National Alliance on Mental Illness in Imperial Valley. I'm a certified NAMI Connections peer specialist and a professional that lives with severe mental illness. It's wonderful to be on the board and have the voice of our rural peers here. And I thank the board for welcoming me with open arms. I've learned a great deal from you, and I hope to continue to bring the voice of both the legal profession, public members, and rural peers with mental illness to board proceedings.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Thanks a lot. Welcome to the board. And then we're going next, Chris Jones.
Good morning. My name is Chris Jones. I am the LEP member on the board. I have been a school psychologist for the last 23 years. I spent 10 of those years in public education, and I've spent the last 14 years in private practice. I also am heavily involved with the California Association of School Psychologists, where I've sat on their board of directors as the LEP specialist for the last 5 years. I'm also a parent. I've got a couple of teenagers at home. And I'm very excited to be part of the Board of Behavioral Sciences, where we can continue to advocate for students, families, and consumers.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much. Dr. Brew.
Thea Brew, LPCC member.
Thank you. And Susan Friedman.
I am a public member of the board. I'm also on the Mental Health Commission for Los Angeles County. And prior to all of this, I was a news reporter and producer for NBC Network and traveled the world.
Thank you, Susan. Wendy Strack.
Wendy Strack, public member.
Thank you. Christina Wang.
Christina Wong, LCSW member and your vice chair.
Thank you, Christina. Deborah Brown.
Public member.
John Sovek.
John Sovek, LMFT member.
And myself, I'm Max Disposti as a board chair. Am I missing any other board members? I don't see you on the screen. Forgive me if I do. I don't believe so. Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you for the introductions and welcome again. Part of my chair report, I also would like to share with the public that we have voted in for the new Policy Advocacy Committee for Christine Wong as a chair, Deborah Brown, myself, Max Disposti, and Wendy Strack. For telehealth, we have Christina Wong as a chair, and Crystal Anthony and Susan Friedman. And on the licensing committee, we don't have a chair yet, but we have Wendy Strack, Susan Friedman, and Christina Wong. I just wanted to share that for the public, even in relations to the concerns and considerations that were brought to us. These are public committees, so every time we meet, the meetings will be recorded, and the public has an opportunity for input. There will be minutes and so forth. So this is obviously how we've done every year, and will give us the opportunity to address those issues that cannot be dismantled in a board session. I believe there is nothing else to add on my chair report, and I will ask for a 10 minutes break. I know we all need it. So it's 9:30. We can reconvene at 9:40 a.m. Thank you so much, everyone. To the public session of the Board of Behavioral Science meeting. Today is Friday, August 14, and 2020, and it's 9:44. We were just about to finish the under the board share report. We are going to now listen from the board members' activities, if there are any activities. For the sake of fluidity, I'm going to call you as I did before. And if you have a report or anything that you would like to share, this is the time. If you don't, you just pass it on. So, Kelly, any reports?
I have no comments at this time, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chris Jones.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Dr. Brew.
Nothing to report, just sitting at home looking at Zoom.
Susan.
Nothing to report.
Wonderful. Okay, Wendy.
Nothing to report.
And Christina, and we know you do.
I know, thank you. So, I just, I'm glad to report that the Department of Consumer Affairs produced a new video for BBS, and I think the title is BBS Who We Are. And so, I have the honor, to represent the board member, to speak a little bit, a tiny few seconds, to talk about my experience. And also I drag my MSW intern, and he's also in there. And actually, all the board members are also be part of it because I think that video took place in also took some snapshots and at our last in-person meeting in March. So again, that's a very, very fun experience, and so I really encourage the public to watch it to really understand the function of BBS and what we do and who we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. And just for the sake of public, where they can find that video?
You know what? That is interesting. So I thought he sent it. Well, I have a link, to preview. I don't know if it has been published on the website yet. So maybe I'll refer it back to Kim or Steve,
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You can definitely find it on Facebook. It was posted. And then on the website, it should be posted. I'm just seeing if I can give you guys a good where it is posted on our website. I think it's probably in about the web, about the board.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Also on the BBS Facebook page as well, you said.
Yes.
Correct. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Deborah Brown.
Nothing to report.
John Savik. We can't hear you yet.
Nothing to report.
Thank you so much, everyone. That concludes our item 14 in the agenda, and we're moving now to our EO report, agenda item 15. Kim.
Okay, for one moment, I'm going to defer to Roseanne Helms to announce some items have changed, and so they're coming off our agenda.
Okay.
Yes, so we're cutting a couple of items from the agenda that you do have materials for, or placeholder for. Item 16 regarding possible revisions to the proposed rulemaking to implement AB 2138. We do not have any proposed revisions from OAL at this time, so we're going to be cutting that agenda item. And then also item 21, AB 1616, I've just been informed by the Assembly Business and Professions Committee that that bill will not be moving this year. So we will be cutting that item from the agenda.
Thank you, Roseanne. That's really helpful. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, Kim.
Okay, so I'm going to start with our budget report. Primarily, this report will focus on our year-end, fiscal year-end 2019-2020. You'll recall our budget last year was just almost $12.6 million. And as of August 6th, the board had expended about 96% of its budget. So that's good news. And we're going to, we're projecting a reversion of just a little over $500,000. So we came in under budget, and that's always good news.
Right.
The fund condition for 1920 was a 2.8 month reserve. And again, that's good news. Moving forward to 2021, our current budget is just shy of $12.5 million. And at this time, we're a month into the new year. We don't have a lot of expenditure information to offer you, but we will at the November meeting. I do want to share with you that recently DCA came out with some new reporting tools out of the Fiscal reporting system where everything runs through. And so we should have some new reports to share with you at the November board meeting. And we primarily will get revenues, we'll get expenditures, we'll get projections. And our budget analyst, Dawn Herrera, has attended that training. So really looking forward to getting some reports, budget reports that have been absent for quite a period of time. So at this point, are there any questions about the budget information that you were provided in your packet? Christina?
So I noticed that the fund reserve, for next year, go down, to red. So
right.
I know it might be related to, the fee increase. And I know that it's still in the works about the fee increase. So we don't know how the legislation decision is going to be, because I guess that, it will be, I think it's still on the governor's final, decision. So I am just wondering, any plans, to kind of like, if anything not going through, any plans to make sure that, we don't go into red?
No, we're not going to go into red. A couple of options if we don't, the fee increase doesn't come to fruition. We can cut some expenditures. There are positions that we can hold open. We are going to see some budget savings because we're not traveling anymore due to COVID. And, there's some things that we can do to tweak it to make sure that we end up in the black. So I'm not overly concerned, but yeah, it's definitely a good question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Okay. So moving on, we'll move into our operations report. Just a quick update for you. In mid-June, the board office reopened to the public, and so that means our office is now open 8 to 5. And so there is staff there 8 to 5, whether it's just the lone manager on duty or a few staff members with that manager, but we do have services to the public now. We updated our procedures to provide extra, to include the recommended protocols to keep us all safe. Not only the board staff coming into the office, but also the public. So we have 6-foot distance markers throughout the office. We have purchased disposable and washable face masks for the staff. We've purchased disposable gloves for the staff to use, and we've got signs throughout the lobby limiting the number of people that can be in a specific room, such as our break room and our small conference room. We've got hand sanitizer throughout the office. We've got disinfectant wipes throughout the office, and it's all placed near commonly used equipment. For example, the copiers and the printers and such. And we also have one entrance and exit for board staff to use, which is completely separate from the staff, from the public. So in addition, the manager on duty goes through the office and cleans all the commonly touched items, doorknobs, printers, faxes, counters, break room. So we've been extremely, extremely fortunate. COVID has not entered our office, and it's primarily due to the cooperation of the staff and some of our extra efforts, and we're hoping to keep it that way. So included in your operations report is the quarterly statistics for the last quarter of 1920. You'll notice that licensing program, the applications that we received increased slightly by 17% in the last quarter. And as a result, there is a little increase in processing time with the applications, but given the time of year that we're in, following graduation, the delays are not that unexpected. Our population has also grown. Last quarter, we issued just a little over 2,000 initial licenses. And as of August 1st, we have exceeded 121,000 licensees and registrants, which is a 1% gain since the last quarter. So our profession is alive and well and growing, which is good news. Renewal activity increased 20% last quarter. And again, primarily the renewals are done online. Everyone's using the Breeze system. It's wonderful. It's instant. It works really, really well, and it's efficient. And it really does eliminate incomplete renewal applications. So I'm happy to see that transition happen. Administratively, our applications decreased, administrative applications decreased by 16%. So these are name changes, requests for duplicate licenses, address change, and requests for license certifications to be provided to another state. And I'm going to stop here for a second. Are there any questions about the application volume so far? Christina?
Sorry that I have so many questions.
All good.
So I noticed that, the ASW registration has a really significant increase. 60% is quite a lot. And so I'm just wondering, whether it's about, the increase of the registration or is it because of the backlog? I don't know.
Yeah, there was no backlog on the ASW desk. There's one person doing that, but we are in, it's graduation season. We get an avalanche, literally, of applications. And so it's not uncommon to see her go from a 2-week processing time to maybe just under 6 weeks at this time of year. So, and we have some assistants, some of the other staff is, there's some support staff there that's helping her, and she's actually still pretty darn good by herself. But we're actually considering adding another position to that unit next year.
And if I can interject too, it kind of we're seeing too. It's first of all, there is a tremendous increase in those applications, and it's kind of switching to more ASWs. But the LMFTs are coming in slower for some reason. I'm not sure if it's the schools or something. So we will, I think, see a balance out next quarter.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, I understand, whether it's about the increase of the number or whether it's about administratively that, that's about, because it's quarterly. So thank you for the explanation.
Sure. Any other questions? Hi, Leah.
I just wanted to compliment the board staff because a lot of my alumni this summer said their stuff turned around miraculously in like a week or two. So I just, my students, and some are LPC and some are MFT or both. And so they're super happy and excited they were able to start right away. So sorry for you social workers, but we're doing great.
On that note, I was expecting a difference in relations to, the office was closed for a while. People had to work remotely. Even the licensee applications, we are all distracted from COVID, and seeing actually an increase of licensing application is really impressive considering the circumstances. I wasn't expecting this, to be honest. I thought we were seeing a challenge there. In reality, it's completely the opposite, which is really
well. I have to tip my cap to the staff and Steve primarily. Holy cow, to go from working in the office and processing all those applications to sending everybody out remotely with laptops and online access and scanners and trying to find a way to get information to us remotely. That's Steve took on that project, and holy cow, we're doing really well, actually. The staff is able to focus without a lot of distraction, and they can just really basically crank out the work. They're doing an amazing job. So I just get to report their progress. But yeah, it's gone well. I was surprised too. We haven't had a drop off.
Yeah. So can I have a follow-up comment also, or question? So, so the LCSW exam, and so, I think that is the only categories, that is exceed, the processing dates, exceeds 100, close to 139. And I did hear, even from my coworkers and saying that, the approval is really, it's taking a long time.
It is.
Yeah. So, so I'm thinking, I'm just thinking about, couple up with, the examination, all the problems about, signing up and stuff like that. I just want to make sure, I don't know what we can do, in order to help out the LCSW, examination to be processed a little bit sooner.
But what we've done, that unit had 2 vacancies. It used to be a 2-person unit. We added some additional staff to make it a 4-person unit, looking at all of those exam applications. And pretty much right after we filled the 2 positions, one of the positions vacated, and then we had COVID. So, and there was already a backlog to begin with, and just the circumstances of the vacancies and COVID it really contributed to the increased processing times. What we've done to mitigate that is we just brought on a new staff member to fill. She's training right now. We've also redirected an existing staff member whose workload was not significantly high at this particular moment. And so that staff worker is working on those exam apps as well. And I would say the person we hired to fill the vacancy in the LCSW unit just before COVID is really now starting to come into their own and able to work independently without having the work checked. So I anticipate in the next 60 days, we're going to see a significant movement in the LCSW exam apps, and the backlog will be eliminated, much like you see with the LMFT apps, because they're fully staffed up until this week. So, it just happens. It just happens. So we should see some significant improvement shortly.
Awesome. So I think we should, in the next board meeting, just really highlight, that, that decrease. I think that will make, everybody very happy.
Yes, it will.
Thank you.
All righty. Any other questions? Okay, so moving on to our examination program, and I'm going to talk about the stats, and then Steve's going to provide you a little more in-depth report, just about overall the examination and what's really going on. You'll notice that the total number of exams that we administered in the last quarter is really down when you look at the previous years, and that's just COVID and the availability of tests, seats for the test. And we still are continuing to develop different versions of our examinations. The workshops are being held virtually right now, and we did 10 of them in the last quarter of 1920. In our enforcement program, we've got 351 consumer complaints and 167 criminal convictions. We closed a total of 463 cases. 8 cases we sent to the Attorney General's office for formal discipline. And as at the end of June, there were 115 cases pending at the AG office. We filed a total number of 20 accusations and 2 statement of issues. And we issued 8 final citations in the last quarter. We looked at 28 final disciplinary orders for your approval, and the average number of days to complete our formal discipline in the fourth quarter was 407 days. And this stat is measured from the date we receive the complaint till the date we close it, when that final discipline order is effective. The DCA performance standard is 540 days, so we're well under that. We also measure the number of days that the case is simply with the AG's office. This is where we send it over. It's not within our control to move it forward. And that statistic in the last quarter was 268 days. And the average number of days for the board to complete every investigation or all investigations is 62 days. For continuing education audits, those are suspended, and they're suspended due to the current CEU waiver for renewals as a result of COVID. And our outreach activity, this is the time of year, the fourth quarter is where it kind of slows down a little bit. We had 5 events, 2 major presentations to social work students at USC, as well as at the California Society for Clinical Social Work. And we also presented and attended the CalPIC Educator Forum. And I want to thank Leah for getting us in there, and so that we can speak with those schools and educators, because I think that connection is super important. We continued our outreach with the MFT Consortium, which is the counterpoint to the LPCC Educator Forum. So we'll gear up again. Fall brings on some new attendance and opportunities for outreach. And any questions so far? Operationally, okay. Yes, John, hi.
Hold on one second, had to unmute. Just a real question about the examination program and the pass rates.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any concern or curiosity about the pretty dramatic drop of the pass rates for LEPs? Everybody else seemed to stay pretty steady in their pass rates, but it looks like the LEPs have dropped pretty dramatically. I didn't know if there was any particular reasoning or understanding why that might have happened.
I think you're dealing with a lower percent. I hate to say this, I don't know the statistical terms for that, but it is a lower population, so you will see those bigger fluctuations, just because it could be there's more second-time takers in that population, which have a tendency to possibly have a more fail rate.
Well, for third and fourth quarter,
we
you
do
had
have
the
that.
same number of people, 31. First time pass rate was 88%, then it was 60%.
Yeah.
Total pass from third was 71 down to 55. So that's the same number of test takers. I'm just intrigued if there's anything that's happening that you're aware of that would influence those numbers.
Not that
Yeah. The other thing that might contribute to a drop in a pass rate is the release of a new version of the exam too. Sometimes that will trigger a lower pass rate, but it's something, if you'd like, John, we can follow up with OPES to see if they have any statistics and analysis to share with us to explain that.
Do we know if there was a new LEP test that went out recently?
Gosh, I don't know. Are you aware, Steve? You're mute. I know you're talking, Steve. I can't hear you.
No, I do not know. I apologize. I think it might have been, I'm not going to guess, but maybe the first quarter.
Yeah.
Not the first quarter, the third quarter it may have gone in. But I don't know when that actually went in.
Okay, we can follow up, John, and I can send you the information.
That'd be great, thank you. Just I need to keep track of in case it turns into a trend.
Yeah, I would hate that, yeah. That's first time. Chris?
Yeah, I know that the test has been updated recently. I don't know the exact date. I know that as I've been running the LEP test prep classes for CASP, that the feedback I've been getting from the participants is that there's been a significant update with the occupational analysis and the change of it, which resulted in change of questions. So
okay.
I'm not sure actually why the rate is low either. You know, that I work pretty closely with it, so I'll check in with our members and see what's going on.
Okay.
And
Christina?
Christina and then Kelly.
Okay, thank you. So I'm thinking about looking at the outreach activities. And so I think now, since everybody is on Zoom, and so I'm just thinking about like, this is a perfect timing, for the School of, Social Work or all the programs to really have the board's presence, and we don't have to travel. And so I'm just wondering, how we can actually use this, media platform, to do some outreach and it will be fairly cost effective and also will reach a much bigger magnitude of people, of the students and stuff. So just an idea, really for the board staff to consider. And the second question is about, the percentage of the licensees registrants get disciplined. So I know that we track, the days, because the days of the processing, the enforcement part of it. But I'm just curious about like how many, of our licensees and registrants are really, on probation. And the reason why I'm thinking about that is like, if we have those data, and also even start to break it down, to the license type, then I think we will have a much better picture about, where the, the kind of like the issues and be able to, do some education, down the road. And so, and also, not having, or also having, the information to know that, that basically, that the areas that, we can improve. And so that's just a little thought that, I don't know if that's a possibility down the road, just to kind of compare, to get that, that sense that, how much, the numbers, so.
Well, I can tell you just roughly out of 121,000 plus licensees and registrant, the total number of our probationers, if I recall correctly, is right around 200. So
it's fairly small.
It's really small, really, really, really small.
Yeah.
And the majority of them are on there most likely due to a substance abuse,
right.
DUI, substance abuse conviction. Yeah.
That comes to 1/100th of a percent.
It's really, really small.
Really, really tiny. Yeah. So on the other hand, it means that, we, our mental health professionals are actually doing really good.
Yeah.
In terms of, being in compliance and yeah, so that's awesome. Thank you. That eased my worries. Good.
Kelly, go ahead. We can't hear you, Kelly.
Sorry, guys, I double mute sometimes to make sure that no one can hear me. Kim, I noticed in the operations report that in the outreach activity, which is outstanding, is there any opportunity to do outreach activity to either our Title IV-E social workers or maybe some outreach in rural communities?
Happy to do that. We just need to be connected. And there's pretty much not any, people ask, we say, sure, we're there. So, yeah, if you have a connection there for us, Kelly, we would be happy to.
So, there is an organization called the California Association of Rural Counties and Rural Communities. And, my thoughts are, I know that there's a lot of Title IV EMSW students that would love to hear from the board about the licensing program because they're both, social workers in rural communities and also getting their MSW. So I thought.
Oh, no, we lost
Hold on one second. Yeah.
There he is.
I'm here. Sorry.
Yeah,
anyway,
Kelly,
guys.
If you can sync us up with that and point us in that direction, I'd be happy to reach out to them and see how we can partner with them.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you, Kelly. I don't think we have any. Susan.
I just have one question, and that is, and this is from a person who's not knowledgeable about all this, but it's possible that one reason that the numbers are so low is because the public has no idea how to file a complaint. I served on the medical board before this, and the same thing was there. The public has no idea about this, about you, and about, they just don't know about it. And sometimes I'll talk to people and I'll say, well, if you have, even about like a contractor or whatever, I said, there's a board, you can file a complaint if you care about it. But right now, I don't know of any way the public knows, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe you have an extensive program for letting the public know at all times that they have access to the board and to a way to make their voices heard.
Yeah, I think we may see an uptick in complaints. One of the new laws that is going to go into effect, if it's not already, is that when the treating mental health professional needs to provide the client information about where to file a complaint if they have a complaint. That was very similar to the posting notice that you see in a pharmacy. They're going to provide specific language about us. So that might increase awareness as well.
Kim, I believe that actually went into effect June 1st because we're now required to have in our intake form and our office policy sheets informed consent in, I think it's 12-point type, a specific paragraph that says to file a complaint, this is what you need to do.
Right. Okay.
Yes,
very
correct. That went into effect July 1st, 2020.
Awesome.
Missed it by a month. So close.
You were very close.
So, Susan, that might provide additional information for folks, and then we just continue to do our outreach. Okay. All righty. So at this point, I'm going to shift to Steve, and he can dive a little deeper into the exam program and the vendor.
Thanks.
All yours.
So the beginning of the year, and part of the report is talking about our transition because at January 1st, we transitioned over to Pearson VUE. Gosh, it's a forethought now, it seems like, after all this. But, the transition always brings complications, but we have finally worked through all the computer glitches that we may have been experiencing. So right before COVID, I think we were in a really stable position where everything was working appropriately, eligibilities were going over, our computers were talking to each other. That whole part of the system was solid. It still is. That was nice. So we got over one hump, but then all of a sudden COVID. And I think that's what people really want to hear about today. So I kind of want to look at it as what's currently happening, what we're doing currently and what we can, do in the future to assist all our candidates. Just to put it candidly, examinations are down. The ability to register for an exam is down by 50%. You can see that in our stats. It definitely shows that only 50% of our candidates, we normally have around 5,000. Now we only have about 2,500 candidates that have been able to register in this last quarter. That's because Pearson has been actively, complying with local restrictions on opening businesses and also trying to comply with all the safety safeguards with using face masks, social distancing, and other protocols. I think they've been doing a pretty good job. Unfortunately, it's been a couple months, but we're still trying to figure out how to operate under this. And so I think both Pearson and both the board are trying their best to, address all the concerns that are concerns of our candidates. Pearson does deliver all of our exams now. Not only the board developed exams, which is the LMFT, the law and ethics exams, the LMFT clinical and the LEP exam, but they also do the ASWB and NBCC for the LEPs exam. NBCC for the LPCC exam. So what we're experiencing now, though, is with that 50% reduction in testing availability, plus complications where to mitigate, Pearson VUE has had to actually cancel some registrations to make sure that there's enough that they can comply with the restrictions on on social distancing and such. So that in itself, and we're not the only exams that they're giving. They're giving a lot of licensing exams in California. So what we are really facing right now is not only in-house, we're trying to answer and trying to work with all candidates. Pearson, on the other hand, is dealing with even a bigger bigger volume of candidates and trying to respond to their questions and trying to, schedule them appropriately. All I can do is ask for the candidates' patience with us, with Pearson right now. And we're trying our best, and we will get better. Currently, what we're doing, though, to try to assist, we are working on a daily basis with Pearson. They give us updates, and we work with them on issues that arise that need to be addressed. And luckily, they are very good in communicating with us and are very responsive to our needs and to our our calls. And then on the other hand, for us, what we are looking at is my big concern right now is the eligibilities. When you get eligibility to take an exam, a clinical exam specifically, you have a year to take the exam. That in itself puts a burden on, I know, the candidates trying to get in to take the exam. So our focus is on what we can do immediately right now, which what we have done is put forth some waivers to basically allow candidates that extended time frame so they don't necessarily need to get into the exam right away. There are 3 waivers that we've actually put forward, and they're currently in use. One of them is for subsequent registration. That is the subsequent registration. You need to actually have passed the law and ethics to get that subsequent registration. The waiver for this is if you have expired within March 31st to August 31st, you are not required to have passed the exam, the law and ethics exam, to be able to get your subsequent registration. That will give those candidates, basically, they can get their subsequent registration, and then they will have another year before their next renewal to pass the law and ethics. So that will hopefully relieve some pressure to that group of candidate population. The second one is, and it's one of the, hopefully we can discuss this at a future date, but it's the requirement to have taken the law and ethics exam to renew your associate registration. We put a waiver in that if you have a renewal, if you have an associate registration that expires between March 31st, 2020 and August 31st, 2020, that you are not required to have sit for the law and ethics exam. We will renew your registration as long as you've paid the fee and fulfill all the other requirements, but then you'll have to take the exam within 6 months. We are looking at that waiver to see, and actually all these waivers, to see about extending that and to work on that so we can pull off the burden of that population. Lastly, the more important one is the candidate eligibility that expires in a year time frame. So, I mean, this one is basically, you have a year to take your exam. If your exam eligibility expires between that same time frame, the March 31st, August 31st, we will give you 18 months from your last exam attempt to be able to take the exam. That, I think, is the real critical one, because in law, we are supposed to abandon those applications, and those candidates are actually supposed to reapply and start the process over again. I recognize the anxiety that brings on. So that is really in my focus. That's one that we want to keep extending as much as possible, depending on what the situation is, in the next few months. I'm not, as you all know, I think we're going to be in this for quite a while. So we will keep addressing it as what we can do, as a board right now. And so that's looking at the waivers, working with candidates, trying to address as fast as possible their issues with scheduling. The other big issue is, and I understand the anxieties about about having to go and take the exam if you're concerned about your health. There is a possibility, if you do have certain medical conditions and you are in a bind where you really do need to complete that test ASAP, you could possibly get special accommodations for a separate room. That being said, each test site has about one separate room. I don't think they've expanded that. So it might be difficult to get scheduled right away. I'm not sure what the time frame is for that, but that is a possibility. The other things that Pearson was doing is, so some of their sites are open for, well, what we have done is we did expand it to the third-party sites. So we've increased our actual testing sites. Pearson is starting to have some sites stay open. They said almost some of them 24 hours. I'm not sure if that's necessarily for our candidates, but they're looking at what they can do. They are fully aware of the issues that they're having with communicating and getting responses back to candidates right away, and they're working on trying to better that. So in the future, the big question, and this is what, what we talked about in open session, the opportunity of possibly taking this exam, at a different format, online proctoring on your computer at home. We're not caught in a bind, but what we have to look at as a board is that we have two, or at least I see our role as two things. We have public protection, which means that we have to make sure that that exam is valid, and that the security and the requirements of the exam are solid. And then the other part of it I look at is we do have a responsibility to our exam candidates to make sure that they're safe. They have the ability to test under good conditions and are, have the ultimate conditions to actually be able to take that exam. Right now, we have been talking with OPES. There's been various letters put out by Pearson, and we're looking at all the national organizations' letters concerning this. It's something that we definitely will look at, and that's what maybe we'll see if we can put out a formal statement within the next few weeks or a month before the meeting, or maybe a special meeting. So the only, just off the cuff here, it's something that we can, I guess the board, I don't know if you would consider it, but we will definitely do some research and give that to the board to look at. There are concerns. The one concern, or there's various concerns that I personally have with it. And it's, one of the concerns is that it's not going to help immediate. And that's, if we do this, it would be a long process to actually implement. So in the immediate, it's not really going to, I don't believe we'd be able to move that fast to help the situation that we're currently in. I'm hoping that the situation will get better, more test sites will open. But definitely I will do the research, and we will present that to the board and present a letter kind of explaining where we stand on that. I feel really bad for what you candidates are going through right now. It's got to be tough with the anxiety of just taking the clinical exam. I mean, that alone is anxiety provoking, and not being able to schedule additionally, it's very, that would be very anxiety provoking. We will try our best to see what we can do with the waivers to kind of hopefully release some of that pressure and that anxiety for you. And then at the other hand, working with Pearson and seeing what we can do with kind of bettering the communication and such. So.
Okay, thank you, Steve. I see Leah. Go ahead, Leah.
So thank you so much for a thorough report, Steve. That's really helpful. Just to let you know, as an educator, we're using, I think it's Proctorit or Proctoro or something like that to proctor exams. And there seems to be good efficacy because they look at where the candidate's eyes are moving, and that's how it decides where they're going. The second piece is, having taken both of those tests in recent enough times that I remember the experience, because they're the highest sort of level of pedagogical understanding, it's not like a memorized regurgitation and you could go look something up and it would help you. It would be really hard to cheat even if you had like a DSM manual sitting in front of you. So I would encourage you to talk with OPES about, the understanding the levels of the exam, and the difficulty it would be to cheat with like a cheat sheet of some sort. I'm sure somebody could come up with a way to do it, but between the level that they're testing, that highest level of knowledge, and the use of a proctoring, I don't know, app or platform. I know other professions are doing it, so it probably is efficacious. And maybe what you can look at is the data from the other professions who've been doing it to see if the test scores have gone significantly up, or I mean the pass scores, or if they've pretty much stayed at the same rate. So just some thoughts.
Yeah, no, I would definitely look at that. And that is, I mean, one of our big concern is it's a high stake exam. So with the security of that, on one hand, that's one of the concerns. My other concerns in the actual administration part of it and for the nuts and bolts of it, we have 3,000 candidates that we would have to make sure that they have proper internet service, that they, it could dump during the exam. What do we do then? There's a lot of things to really consider that we will consider. I mean, so it's not necessarily, it's security is paramount, but at the same time, the exam experience, I don't know how that would work yet. So we will.
I'll move this back to Kim so that we can proceed. I see quickly, John. Sorry, Kim.
That's okay.
Steve, one thing that I would ask too is that we look at this as an emergency response to need for accommodations, but also potentially look at it as a long-term response to people who are in rural communities, who have accommodations, who might need this as a long-term solution as well. So we do both at the same time.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, and just to conclude, our communication report, the social media, we are continue to grow. We have more views, likes on Facebook. Facebook Friday is a huge hit. We cover a variety of topics, 6-year rule, current waivers, FAQs, new waivers, mailing tips. Those are some of the topics that we've had in the last quarter. Twitter, we tend to get a lot of people liking our tweets. That's good. Averaging, ranging from anywhere from just a little above 700 to just slightly over 800 in June. So all doing well there. I think I mentioned at our last meeting that we had initiated the use of the DCA call center to answer our calls. The timing on that couldn't have been better considering COVID and everything we had to do. So we just started that transition just as COVID broke, but it's going very well. There are 9 staff members that answer our calls that we're trained. They can answer all the very basic questions and take care of our callers. The highest number of calls we received on one day was in March. It was 151. The lowest was 58 in April, and on average, we see about 75 to 100 calls a day. So pretty happy with how that's going and the service we're getting. So that's our operations report. Are there any questions?
Any questions?
Hi, John.
Yes. It's me again. Hey, Steve, would it be valuable for you to potentially be a guest on one of these Facebook Fridays to talk about the Pearson VUE activities, just so we're using as a communication tool to update people who are feeling very uninformed as to what, like understanding that we're hearing the testing concerns and their actions being taken, that maybe you're a guest on one of the Facebook Fridays to reach that out through the 3,000 people that may be listening.
10,000 people. No, it's
10 million.
10 million people. No, I actually that probably that is a good idea. I'll work with Lisa on that. I know that she has been very good at responding to the Facebook crowd and also talking to them, explaining, kind of really walking them through what's going on. So that's kind of good. But I think that would be a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kelly, I saw you raising your hand. And your audio.
I think that's a great idea. I think Steve could do a Facebook Live video, and I think that would help quell some of the tension. I I think we could think carefully about putting that video up on Twitter, because State Bar has been getting a lot of heat for their exam response as well, and as the New York Bar and Pennsylvania Bar have. But I think a Facebook Live video with Steve sort of explaining the exam process would be wonderful.
Thank you, Kelly. Christina.
Yeah.
I want to add on that, John's idea, absolutely love it. And I think it's about publicizing. So maybe even utilizing the BBS link, to inform the public that, this video is upcoming. And so sign up the link. I think that would be the right way to reach most of the licensees and registrants.
To be fair, I saw one of those Friday I came across on Facebook, and I see that some of the issues that have been addressed are issues that also our consumers are bringing up to us directly on Facebook. So that's also, I love the format where people actually can ask questions. And, so it's open. It's only 30 minutes, but it's something that people can have access to.
Yeah, Lisa's done a great job at that. Kudos to her. And that's what I kind of, just to give her a little bit kudos, it was amazing from our Facebook. I think we put that stats in there, but we hit 10,000 likes or followers, I think, just this last quarter, which is amazing. I mean, we used to know it was about 1,000 or less, and it's actually active, which is amazing, which is good.
I think, Steve, just you and Kim, maybe you should go to TikTok and open a channel.
Yeah. Steve, we don't have a TikTok, do we?
No, we don't have TikTok.
Okay. All right. Never mind.
Not yet.
It was hard enough to get into Facebook and Twitter. I don't know. I'm always, because I am definitely one for wanting to use technology. So that's not out of the question, but I think I want to get a good handle on Facebook and Twitter, kind of that social media before I venture into that.
I might stay away from TikTok and under the political stuff that's going on with it right now, at least for the moment.
Yeah.
And just a heads up, Steve, you can very easily tie together Instagram and Facebook and have those Facebook Live show up on both mediums. It's very easy to do.
Yeah, that's one we haven't tapped is Instagram. We should look at that definitely.
Instagram really is, it's all, even Instagram is the older version, for the younger generation. But, link them together is really not that hard.
And really quick, just so everyone knows it out there, and know that there's 53 people on, but just that you can, if you don't have Facebook and don't subscribe to Facebook, you can still see what we're posting on our website. So you can actually scroll through everything on there.
Thank you, Steve. Okay.
So now it would be time for public comments on the operation report or the budget. Yeah.
Did you see anyone?
I don't see any hands raised. Do you, Steve? Okay.
Okay.
No, I'm not seeing it.
Oh, there's Mary Elizabeth.
Yes, thank you. I just want to give you compliments for this. This is my first time hearing the BBS meeting, and it's actually encouraging me even more so to see where I'm going to be heading once I get licensed. Especially because my passion working with the public is so tremendous that hearing all of you speaking about the safety of the public, it's been one of my concerns working with the mentally ill patients that I work with, and the families more so than anything else. So yes, thank you very much for this opportunity.
You're welcome, Mary. Thank you for for sharing with us. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other public comments?
I think that's it.
That's
it.
Okay. All right. We're going to move on to personnel really quick. We always have comings and goings. We're happy to announce that a couple of our staff members received some promotions this last quarter. John Hicks, the AMFT evaluator, was promoted to be a CEU analyst. He'll do all their continuing education audits. Right now he's doing double duty. He's not doing any audits. He's still processing registrant applications. We also were able to promote Valerie Enlow to the school licensing liaison analyst in our LPCC unit. And so Valerie's done an amazing job being a coordinator for all the LPCC schools, getting the curriculum, getting it reviewed, getting it documented that they have an LPCC graduate program. So happy to do that. We brought on Kelly France to work in the LCSW exam application unit. She started just a few weeks ago with us, and she comes from the private sector. We welcomed Angelique Boutros, and she goes by Angie, and she is our new fingerprint technician in the criminal conviction unit. And we promoted Julie Ruprecht to an enforcement analyst in our enforcement unit. She's going to coordinate a lot of subject matter expert training and review consumer complaints. Julie was previously our subject matter expert coordinator for our exam unit. We've had one retirement. Terry Hagarty worked in the exam unit, and so she left us at the end of June. And we had 2 individuals leave us for other opportunities in June as well. So we said goodbye to Raven Trammell, who processed all our citation and fine documentation and supported the enforcement unit. And then Mary Nunez is departing this month, and she served as our, well, I like to call that position the nag the dag position, but she monitored a lot of the cases that went over to the AG's office to make sure that they didn't get lost through the cracks. So say goodbye to those 2 ladies. And as a result, we have 8 current vacancies. Next week, Steve and I will be interviewing for the 2 vacant manager positions that we have in our licensing and examination unit, and everything else is sort of in the process, and we'll recruit and interview and get people on board as soon as we can. Any questions about the personnel report? Okay. Any questions from the public on the personnel report? No. Okay, moving on really quickly. I've also included a strategic plan update. A number of our items have been completed. We've made progress on a number of items. COVID really stepped up our opportunities to leverage our technology. Happy to check those boxes. But yeah, so that's there for your review. Any questions about strategic plan? Hi, Leah.
So I'm not finding it right here right now, but we had talked about the possibility of training the judges who adjudicate our cases and on understanding addiction, and how is that going?
We still need to reach out with Anahita and coordinate something with her. It's on the radar, but I'll be honest with you. You know, prior to that, there was kind of, it was difficult not having a DAG liaison in town. Now that we have one, we can do it, and now COVID. So.
But we could still do it remotely through Zoom. In some ways, we could take advantage of it, right?
Right, yeah. Now that the ALJs have that opportunity to do remote. So the window has opened. We just need to climb through it.
Great, thank you.
Kelly?
Oops. If you are thinking about judicial training, I did that for 5 years. I would suggest reaching out to National Council. They are federally funded to provide comprehensive technical assistance to judges. So they train judges on how to judge. It would be an excellent opportunity for the ALJs to learn about our line of stuff related to substance abuse, trauma, you know, all that jazz. And they also have the Federal Resource Center on National Drug Courts, which they could tap into that grant funding for.
Ooh, okay.
That's good.
That's just my thought.
I want to circle back with you if you've got that link. That'd be great.
Christina?
So I just want to check in about the breeze function. You know, that's also one of the kind of like the the hole that we haven't really, have much movement yet. So I just want to check in and see what's going on. And then also the second question is that when is our next strategic planning year? Is it 2021?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the planning, this plan expires next year. So next year, well, I'm off somewhere. You should all gather.
Bring in as a public member.
and do, do another plan. Yeah, it needs to be updated, most definitely, but we're on track. Yeah. And then the breeze, I'm going to defer to Steve because that's really where he's, in addition to his other multi-talents, he spends a lot of time with that.
Yeah, and we are continually looking at ways to getting more applications on there and such. So there's a lot that goes on in the background with Breeze, fine-tuning it, working on all the intricacies of it. But I know recently we've put in a ticket, what's called a ticket, to get the re-exam applications online. And then we do have a huge overhaul of the way that our system works that we are pursuing, and hopefully that will be going into effect. It's not really you're not gonna really see anything on the, the user, outside user. Internally though, we're looking at ways to make the system, the logic better for our procedures and such. So we continue on that. And that's really a daily operation that we're working with Breeze. So my hope or my dream is to hopefully next year we might tackle about getting the registration apps, the registrant apps online, and then working towards really getting on the last and final of the law, the examination and licensure exams applications online. So I'm hoping that will happen within the next 2 years. So.
That's always, the work in progress.
Yeah.
Once you get familiarized with it, then new things happen. So, but I really want to thank you for following up on that. And even though there's like the only blank one, and they always say that, it's okay not to have every goal achieved, but at the same time, I want to see something in there. So, so thank you for the update. And also I want to thank Steve, that the status, the little timeline, to list out, what we have done, to accomplish that goal. That is really super awesome. And I just really like those formats. So please keep that going.
I don't know if I can take credit for that. Was it? Yeah, I think it was a combined.
I think mostly, it's always you to
take credit, but okay.
Planning, so I would naturally think that is your credit.
I'll take it. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions? So that does it. Public questions.
I know that Steve. I'm trusting Steve on looking at if there is any request.
I don't see any. Okay.
No,
the last piece I have, and I'm gonna just share it here really quickly if I can find it. Where'd it go? Will be our meeting. This is the 2021 meeting schedules. I really want to thank the board members for their feedback on this, especially going from a 1-day to a 2-day meeting. We opted to go with a 2-day meeting format still. At some point, we should be able to resume meeting in person. And so that keeping that 2-day format, should we be able to resume that next year, we don't have to drastically alter the meeting dates. But you'll see not only do we have the board meeting date set, but we have the policy and advocacy, telehealth committees, and the licensing committee. So those are all there for you to add to your calendars for 2021, and we'll get those posted shortly on our website. So.
Thank you, Kim. We are finished with the EO report, right?
Mm-hmm. We are, and Christina had a question.
Christina.
So we have had the need to have an extra day, to do the disciplinary hearings.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that ties to my first, my question before is that, the number of the, cases, and then the possibility of having the need to set up another extra date for those, disciplinary hearings. So I just want to, check in with you all that, whether you view that, that there's the need to maybe like set up some extra days, single days for, for hearings or.
That could happen, but with the extra dates that we've had this year, we will be current at the end of this year with all of our petitioner requests and hearing. And so hopefully, next year you won't need any extra dates. But if you do, some of those committee meeting dates might serve as a nice placeholder, or as we get through the year, then Steve and staff can set future meeting dates for that.
It's really nice to know that we're current.
Yeah, we will be. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Okay. So that ends my EO report.
Yes, and I will suggest at this point a 10 minutes break before we go to our next agenda item, which will be in agenda number 17. So we'll re-adjourn at 10. It's 10:50 right now. We're re-adjourning at 11. Thank you. The Board of Behavioral Sciences, Friday, August 14, 2020. And we are resuming the agenda item. We're moving into item 17 and it's presented by Kim.
Okay. So this is, we received a number of requests from our stakeholders back up and I'll start again. So as a result of all the tragic death events that resulted in the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and others, I mean, it sparked a weeks of public demonstrations calling for the reform to end racial inequity and injustice. And so since that time, the board's received quite a number of requests suggesting that there be some specific education and training in anti-racism and adding that to a renewal requirement with a 3-hour CEU course. So what's before you today? I mean, California does have a diverse population and certainly was the inspiration to include cultural competency in the required degree programs. But to the extent that this matter or topic is addressed in the degree program under that cultural competency, we simply just don't know. So we don't know whether it would be appropriate to add a 3-hour CEU requirement for renewal addressing this specific topic, as well as doing, is it covered? So we don't have the information right now so that you can make a fully informed decision. And so what I'm doing is bringing this before you, and the staff would like the board to engage in discussion about this topic. Do we want to explore it further? And if we do, then direct staff to do the necessary research and then bring it back perhaps to the Policy and Advocacy Committee for discussion. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Kim. Just for procedural, we're asking the board members to chime in first, and then we're going to the public, just as a reminder. So those who are listening and watching us. Okay, is anyone on the floor from the board that would like to begin? I see Christina and then Kelly.
So I think for that, as a social worker, the racism and anti-racism, it's, and the advocacy, it's a really, really big deal, in our profession. So I think, definitely, the need is there. Sometimes I even look at, the best practice, for the mental health professional, there are a lot of the language and even, that we might reinforce, the racism and the racist, comments and stuff like that. So I think it would be really great, to look at, the coursework, at the individual program. Sometimes it's not just about, the coursework may cover not just about, the professional sequences, but also maybe in the general education. And so I would love to have the staff to really do a little research, and find out, how, this particular area, has been what's the word, maybe spread across, the curriculum and just how it's been, taught, and whether they're like specific classes and stuff, I think that would be better, for the board to come up with a more informed decision.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Christina. Billy Kelly was next, and then Susan.
Sorry, guys, I'm having to double mute to make sure there's no feedback. Let me say this. As a person of color, racism infuses every aspect of our life. It is there. It's ever present. This needs to happen. This absolutely needs to happen. From the time I was 10 years old up to yesterday, I have experienced racism in every aspect of my life, as do many people of color. Without that understanding, a practitioner is approaching it through a very narrow lens. They don't understand the idea that racism plays into a person's psyche, personality, identity, and the way they view the world. I think, well, first of all, I feel like this should have already been there. But second, it's an absolutely critical portion of a therapist's professionalism and understanding of the world. I would also note that we generally don't call it cultural competency anymore. We call it cultural humility, particularly when we work with tribal communities, because it recognizes that one can never be competent in another person's culture. One approaches it with cultural humility to have an ever-present, I'm trying to think of the correct word, constantly learning idea of how to interact with people of different cultures, nationalities, backgrounds. So I would suggest that we direct board staff to conduct research and also liaise with different cultural organizations to determine what sort of educational modality would be proper in integrating this into a professional CEUs, and also what aspects and what model we should use for the CEU.
Thank you, Kelly. There is Susan, myself, and then I see Leah. Susan.
I think this is another way that California can distinguish itself in the country. I don't know if any other group like us in the country is doing this, but I think it is urgent because the time has made it urgent. And I think everybody practicing in California would appreciate some guidance in this area because it does require that. I mean, I wouldn't have the foggiest idea, to be quite honest with you, how to go about it. And the curriculum's got to be developed that's very specific because people of color do feel a different way. And everybody who's practicing needs to know how to deal with that. So I'm definitely in favor of this, and particularly because I think California always leads the way, and this would be a great thing for California to be doing.
Thank you, Susan. I would like to add myself few things. I think I also agree with what's been said. I think it's important to also, from the history standpoint of view, the damage, institutionalized damage that this profession has caused to people of color in the past many years. And so not many people know that. So it's not just about, anti-bias sharing where, obviously we had to make sure that our professional is aware of the diversity, but we need to look inward about, I would like to look for something that's really truthful and it's connected to the reality and the challenges that we're living nowadays, because racism has always been there. What the conversation has brought to us nowadays has to do with how much each one of us, including our profession, has been part of the problem and not the solution. And what I mean by that is that we need to really go deeper in presenting these units, and I'm not familiar with how they could be structured, but in a narrative, it's really changing the narrative, not pun intended, about the damage that the mental health institution, the mental health profession has been done, and also the disparity that we're still experiencing. This is not a problem of the past, as we all know. For instance, we discussed in the past year, I believe, that our concern as a board, the fact that our new licensee, they're not looking as their clients, they're not looking like are the clients they're serving, because the disparity of having access to our profession, they're becoming greater instead of less. And that means internships are really expensive. Not everybody can afford it when you have 2-3 jobs. Those are real concrete problems that I see the people come to to come to apply for internships my place, for instance, right? I don't see the diversity sometimes because people are struggling to get to that point. And I think analyzing in this credit units, really the current challenges, the contradictions, and putting ourselves to work, it's what I would like to see. I don't think we should also, in the context of this, just talking about the contribution or the diversity in terms of why we should be all treated equal. We need to talk more about equity and disparities and how mental health professionals can do proactively better to create an environment where not other people are just accepted, but are part of the conversation when it comes to clinical work. There are a lot of disparity. I see more and more people coming forward that they just want a person of color doing their therapy for them because they connect better. And that makes totally sense to me. So how can we bridge the disparity when the therapist is not a person of color, right? Where is the learning ground where we can bridge the gap as much as possible? It will never be the same, but we can create that closure where we can actually be honest and direct in the conversation. So I don't want to take too much time, but I think we really, not just we need to introduce an item, but we need to really go deeper on what we're proposing in relations to the content of this credit unit. So, and I ended there. Leah was after me. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to add to what everyone is saying in that we need to look at intersectional oppressions, not just race. And in our, I've got so much in my head. So one thing I'm doing, I'm meeting with like a group of API, Asian Pacific Islander therapists, just as a support group for each other. And they are overwhelmed right now with clients. Everything that's going on has stirred people up, and clients of color are wanting to go see therapists of color or counselors of color. Our department and our university, our college are working really hard to do a better job at this. And I've been doing some trainings. I don't know, I must have read 15 books in the last year. I'm happy now that I'm coming off the board to consult with the board to talk about how we can look at curriculum once you kind of assess what people are doing. Honestly, what my department has done historically is we have our culture class, and then people use diverse examples. I think we also need to hear counter narratives. Because the narratives that we hear about our profession are all white men, and we need to hear from other voices and other perspectives as part of our educational system. So I'm not sure how much of this the BBS wants to, I guess there can always be recommendations that people can do, but I don't think a single course is ever adequate. Like as I teach this course, each of my 15 lectures could be a course in and of itself. There's so much information. So I also want to echo Kelly's idea about cultural humility, and diversity and inclusion are other words that are more common right now. I think the old way of doing things is sticking people in stereotypical groups, right? You pick a race and say, these are the stereotypes about that group. But a new way of looking is through intersectional oppressions, the different varying oppressions in the way in which people have been oppressed, and the way in which white supremacist narratives, and I don't mean like the KKK, but assumptions about how people should be and what's healthy and what's quote unquote normal is from a white frame. a white, straight, cisgender male frame and Christian frame. Those are very important. So I think it's important for us to reframe the way we look at culture, and the BBS could set up, I don't know, articulate it in a way that people can stop just doing stereotyping and go into a much deeper dive in this. So yeah, if you want my help, I'm very passionate about this topic.
Thank you, Leah. I believe, Deborah, were you raising your hands or no? I'm sorry. You did? Okay.
I'm sure everybody's aware that the CSU now is going to require a course in ethnic studies or social justice. And I think that's awesome. And to echo what Susan said, California is on the cutting edge most often with everything. And this is just one more example of getting out there and making sure this happens. I think that it might be helpful for in the future to make sure that we look at what the requirements are for the CSU in asking for these classes, to make sure that we can build on those instead of just a rehash of what they might be getting at their undergraduate level, but being able to move forward with bigger ideas and, as Leah said, I think a more rounded approach beyond just stereotyping and what do we do with a stereotype and schemas and the basic Psych 101 stuff that people might be getting at their undergrad level. But I think it would be really important if we were going to, if down the road this was something that we were to implement, that we make sure it's way beyond undergrad level and that it really, really addresses a bigger breadth of information for counselors and therapists.
Okay, thank you, Deborah. I haven't seen any other hands, but okay, John, sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, I started a wave. I knew I'd get your attention. So as a person who identifies as being a member of multiple marginalized communities, one of the things that I experienced in my school is that, yes, there was a requirement. And as Leah and Deborah both pointed out, it was a very stereotyped, this is a book that says these certain people act this way, this is how you should be with them in the session. The thing that I think if we're going to gather information from the schools about, are they doing this, what are their units, is we need to not only look at what the schools are, because on paper, my school was doing exactly what they were required to do, but to also get feedback from students who have been through the program to find out from them, were these addressed on a really humanistic, in-person, real life level, or were they handed this really atrocious book that was filled with stereotypes, as was done in my program? So on paper, they had done what they were required. In reality, they had not even gotten close. The other thing that I want to think about too is the ideas in this approach to trying to deepen this knowledge in both our education and our CEU units is to look at amplifying voices of people who are members of those communities to be at the forefront of leading the education. Now, the way I see that potentially playing out is that we help to be part of the development of creating opportunities for those people to develop their own programs. Because one of the things that's really fascinating, as Leo was mentioning, dominated by a white male, cisgender, patriarchy education system in many cases, is that we have to actually go back in time and to be there to assist each other in saying, here's how you could develop a program. Starting as far back as like their undergraduate work, their graduate work beginning during their traineeships, versus having to sit there and saying, I have to wait until I reach a certain thing, or I don't see my voice or face represented, and so it's going to be too hard to do. That we would have to be proactive in trying to assist creating a systemic change that would give people the inspiration to feel that they could step up and have their voice be heard. Because right now, that is one of the big blocks that's happening, is there's just no support for saying, someday I want to hear you present on this CE thing because you are brilliant and amazing and your lived experience will influence many, many people. And I think that's a real challenge that's happening right now too.
Thank you, John. I believe Kelly was coming back. Yes.
One, I want to amplify what John and Leah both said. One about intersectionality and systemic racism, which should be a core part of what we're researching. And the second thing is when John talks about amplifying voices, you might want to consider a listening session, which is one of the ways that we acquire that qualitative information about marginalized communities when we're forming curriculum and education on the domestic violence and judicial education side. Traditional surveys don't necessarily work well with marginalized populations, whereas listening sessions, which are really listening sessions where you actually listen, do tend to work far better. That's all.
Thank you, Kelly. Thanks a lot. Have I missed anyone new? Okay, Leah.
Just really quickly, I want to make it clear that I also want to do continuing education in addition to looking at what programs are teaching, because unlike theories, well, maybe that's not the best example, but this topic is constantly changing, and the way we understand the world is constantly changing. Gender is a really good example of that. So I want to do both CE and looking at programs and identifying ways in which they can do this better.
Back to John.
And going once again on the CE program, I would like to actually investigate it being part of an ongoing renewal process, so it's not a one and done. There's another challenge that I see a lot in our community. A lot of programs that I do trainings at do a one, and then they announce to the world that they're fully trained on all aspects of LGBTQ care. So I think the idea of making it part of a renewal process, an ongoing CEU project, would actually be much more effective in creating the change that Susan was describing in our caregivers and our clinicians in the state of California.
Thanks, John. That's what I was meaning to say.
Thank you, John. Any other board member before we ask the public for inputs? And we can go back in case any of you has any additional thoughts to share after the public, but okay, Steve, if we can go to the public and see if anyone has any comments or...
Yeah, okay, Jennifer, Ali?
Good afternoon, or hello again, almost afternoon. This has been a very thoughtful discussion, and I do appreciate the board diving deep into this, very serious issue that we're experiencing. And I wanted to echo the comment, I think, of Deborah, that the CS board just approved graduation requirements, and Assemblymember Weber has AB 1460 that is on the governor's desk, and I don't know if he's taken action yet. But CAMP also would really like to see anti-racism incorporated throughout the education process, not just one specific CE, because this will reinforce the education received during the degree moving forward. Obviously, we do have concerns respectfully about having a new CE requirement on all of our licensees, just because we have concerns with that. But we really think if every course that they took as part of their continuing education had that racial aspect incorporated into it, would be a more holistic approach to training, and not having it be such a standalone issue, but something that we're regularly, our members are regularly being educated and advised on to keep it most current.
Thank you. Steve again. Who's next?
We have Kurt. Ruben.
Hello, I think I'm going to reiterate or maybe combine a couple of different things, both Dr. Brew and John Sobek, but also going with further along the line of thoughts of Jennifer Ali, is the process of making this into a CE has the risk of turning this into a checkbox requirement that many people can sit through, and I think is against the spirit of anti-racism in and of itself. That if a CE course on either a one-time or an ongoing aspect is a destination, we risk making this a intellectual process rather than the action process that the anti-racism commentary has been in the movement in our field. If 3 months of protests, if 15 books of Dr. Brew's readings is not yet enough in many of the conversations, I don't think that 3 hours is necessarily going to create the kind of change that we hope. And I fully agree with Jennifer Ellie's position that this should be more of a systemic effort, not a destination effort, and would really encourage that this be looked at beyond a course and more of how this can be implemented across action.
Thank you, Kurt. Steve, anyone else?
Jan Lee.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for bringing this topic to the agenda. It's so important now. Every speaker has said so, and many of them have echoed what I'm thinking. First of all, Dr. Brew mentioned that her school and her programs, the CSU, and I can assure you the schools of social work, not just in California, but throughout the country, are seriously looking at infusing anti-racist and racial justice content in all their courses. So I think the board can, rest a little easy about how schools are handling this. I'm sure the MFT schools are doing the same. So, we can focus on what people are saying is the postgraduate educational requirements. And again, the idea that clinicians need to understand how racism and trauma is carried from generation to generation. An excellent journal article on this is by Dr. Alan Lipscomb at Cal State Northridge. The title of the journal article is Black Male Hunting. Black Male Hunting. It's a short journal article, easy to read. It talks about how the video of the police killing of Stephon Clark, a young Black male in Sacramento, has traumatized and re-traumatized Black men throughout the country. He surveyed Black men throughout the country, and he found this sort of emotional response and a response of fear as a result of watching that video. So if a clinician doesn't really understand that, it's our responsibility, the profession, as well as the licensing board, to try to foster education and changes in therapy and methods. The other thing I want to talk about is that equal is not equity. Equal is not equity, and inclusion is more than just a seat at the table. That's how deep and how important this topic is. I would love to see the board infuse anti-racist and racial justice content in the required courses already. For example, the one that's repeated is law and ethics. That can clearly contain racial justice and anti-racist content. Look at how so many brown and Black people are disproportionately represented in our criminal justice system. Look at how people put other values first before values that would help them become better therapists. The child abuse reporting course, why are so many Black and brown children disproportionately represented in the child protective system? Human sexuality, aging, substance abuse, suicide, all of these courses that we recommend people take if they haven't had the content or they're mandated to take, all could benefit from being infused with this content. So I agree, this is a topic and a subject that has to be continuously learned. And it's not just a one-off course, a checkbox course, as everybody has mentioned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chen-Li. Steve.
And we have Perla.
Yes, hi, board members. I actually had presented a comment about this topic at the last board meeting on July 30th. And I want to say thank you so much for taking this into very serious consideration. I speak on behalf of all licensed marriage and family therapists that are in practice currently. And I just wanted to present to you that, with my experience being in clinical practice as either an intern or a licensed member over the last 10 years, I did take the required coursework in my graduate program. But as you know, a lot of us clinicians that are in current practice some of our programs, our clinical programs were 10 years ago. And although they were thorough, the thing that I left with when I completed my coursework was that was just a jumping off point. That was a starting point in our ability to understand cultural humility, intersectionality, as well as inclusivity. And what I find even in myself as a clinician who's realizing that with our profession and the board increasingly advocating increased access to mental health services to multiple populations, I even find myself struggling to understand some of the cultural issues of the clients that are coming to me. For example, I have seen in the last year an increase in South Asian and Muslim clients. And although I am a clinician of color and a woman of color, I find myself struggling to understand some of these cultural issues that my clients present to me because I don't have that experience. So I say this to you as a board to emphasize the need for the ongoing continuing education in this area so that we can continue to be competent and meet the needs of the populations that we serve and that we that access our services. Also, I find myself being lacking in ability to find some of the training courses that help us understand some of these cultural issues, like what is it like to work with a Muslim client or a South Asian client? How do I understand their experience if I don't have the ability to access those trainings? And as well as the gender competency or gender humility. We are seeing more and more people who are identifying in non-traditional gender ways. And I myself, who is a straight cisgender therapist, have also struggled with understanding how to address some of these issues. So I say all this to reinforce what's already being discussed, but also to provide you with a firsthand sort of perspective on why I think this is important to continue to consider and make it a long-term pursuit for our profession. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Perla. Thank you. Anyone else there from the public?
I see no hands raised.
Excuse me, Mary Elizabeth here.
Oh, sorry, Mary.
Okay, here I am. Thank you. I want to say that the people that had already shared their given their feedback in regarding the necessary additional education regarding the different cultures. I really believe that the same way I was told when I was going to my university, that it's a good idea to continue with therapy, even if it's once a month. Well, the same way I see it when it comes culturally. I really think that it is important to keep up with the latest news, with the new language, even with our children now these days, the way they speak, the way they text, the way they see computers. So we are in a new, completely different way of looking at life, period. Not only with race, but just overall. That's the way I look at it. I think that hearing the voices from not only the young people and different cultures, but just overall, every person has a way of looking at life. And going back into time, that's going to really take a long time to be able to cover that up. But it is important to have it as a continuation of, how can I say, just the same way that we like to go to conferences to see what else we're going to be learning. Well, that's the way I'm looking at it, this regarding the racism. I've been learning a lot going online, even YouTube, learning about different ideas from different things, even about how to train a dog. I mean, just different things that we can do now these days online. Perhaps in the Board of Behavioral Sciences can do something like that in regarding this subject, doing it online, since we cannot do it in person right now. But it is crucial. It is crucial. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Thanks for coming forward. Thank you so much. Anyone else did?
Nope, I don't have anybody else.
I just wanted to add, and not to conclude by any means, because we just started this conversation. I feel confident that everyone here, at least I speak for the experience here at the board, we know exactly that CEU is not going to contain the whole conversation about systemic racism and doing the work. I think, though, it's important, and speaking as a queer experience as a service provider as well, it did make a difference when we started talking about education within our professions. And even though we always run the risk, like John Sobek was saying, you know, the fact that someone gets trained and all of a sudden they become the expertise or competency training about that particular matter, there's always that risk, but that's part of the conversation. So in my opinion, I'm really confident that starting to put on paper and where to begin the conversation in relations to our, systematic racism and try to see how this conversation can be continued into the time, that's really a good place to start. But then also this board has taken stands when it comes to judicial review of our candidates are coming forward. We're always taking considerations where they're coming from, the biases within the police, the bias within the institutions that have institutionalized racism. We've done a lot of consideration and work in that aspect, so I would like our public to know that in relation to how we are doing our best, but we can do better. There is no question about introducing that conversation of systematic change, because we are still part of the problem. We're not out of the conversation here. So I just wanted to add that note to that conversation. So in lieu of what has been said right now, I see Christina with the hands up. Christina.
Thank you. So I really feel that, at this time, everybody, in all level, we're doing some very deep soul searching, process about, where we're at, in terms of racism, racial equality, racial justice. So, it's definitely a work in progress, definitely. And so I just want to raise up, just another reminder, for our out of state, applicants, we already require them, to have, the cultural part of the California culture. And so I think, the model is there, as a board that, we really recognize that, the complexity, of the, the kind of the racial or the cultural, necessity, for clinicians to learn about, about us, before they come into California to practice. And so, so I just want to, just remind the board that, we do have something in place, and I think it's a really wonderful baby steps, And so, for this, I want to actually make a motion. I want to, keep on the conversation. I think we can have this conversation forever, but I want to round it up and, to make a motion to direct board staff to conduct further research on this topic and recommend this topic as a future agenda item at our upcoming Policy and Advocacy Committee meeting.
I'll second.
Leah seconds the motion. Christina, there's any other comments in regards from the board? Okay, I think we can go and vote.
Okay.
Second, Christina, thank you.
Dr. Leah Brew,
Yes.
Deborah Brown,
Yes.
Max Disposti,
Yes.
Susan Friedman,
Yes.
Chris Jones,
Yes.
Kelly Ranasinga,
Yes.
John Sovek,
Yes.
Wendy Strack,
Yes.
Christina Wong.
Yes.
The vote's unanimous. The motion carries.
Thank you, Christina. We're moving to item 18. Roseanne.
Yes, AB 465. So you should have gotten an updated version of the analysis and then some mock-up text for AB 465. I'm going to start. This bill is a little bit of a weird circumstance. It's a gut and amend bill that's come forth since the last board meeting. So the board has not had a chance to take a position on it yet. The version in print right now has been amended pretty significantly from the amendments that are going to be proposed any day now. We were hoping that the amendments would be in print by the board meeting, but they unfortunately are not yet. We're expecting those anytime. So I'm going to go ahead with going over the analysis, and I'll kind of highlight the differences between what you saw in print in your original packet versus what's being proposed. As of right now, this bill would, in what's being proposed in the new language, it's not in print yet, this bill would require a licensed mental health professional to supervise any program where mental health professionals respond to emergency calls related to mental health crises in collaboration with or in place of law enforcement. The previous version in print would have required a licensed mental health professional to supervise other mental health professionals. This is just the new amendments make it so that it's the change that the mental health professional needs to be supervising the program as a whole. It does not prohibit the supervising licensed mental health professional from also responding to calls and providing care, so they can be a supervisor and a care provider. It defines a licensed mental health professional for purposes of required supervision as a licensed clinical social worker, a professional clinical counselor, a marriage and family therapist, or a psychologist. And then the new amendments are also proposing a physician that's a board certified or psychiatrist resident, or a licensed registered nurse with a master's in psychiatric mental health nursing. And then the newly proposed language also is stating that the law does not alter the scope of practice for healthcare professionals or authorize the delivery of services in a setting or manner that's not authorized by the Business and Professions Code. In other words, it doesn't expand the scope of practice of beyond what our licensing laws permit. In terms of the intent of the bill, the author states that following the killing of George Floyd, the nationwide protests have asked us to reevaluate the role of police in public safety and the range of issues in which they intervene. A lot of programs around the country are looking at improving response to emergency calls with mental health related issues that pertain to mental health related crises, including sending mental health professionals either along with or in place of law enforcement. And the author cites a main example of the CAHOOTS program, which is in Eugene, Oregon. It stands for Crisis Assistance Helping Out on the Street. And I've included a couple of articles as an appendix. There's some interesting information about the success of that program out there. So that's what this bill is seeking to do. In terms of discussion with the author's office, when we saw the original version of the bill back in July, staff had a couple of concerns. The board licensing law requires individuals that are providing psychotherapeutic services to hold a license unless they are working in an exempt setting. And an exempt setting is an institution that's nonprofit or charitable. It's a school, college, university, or government agency. So there was a little bit of a concern. It appears likely that any mental health professionals referenced in this bill if they were unlicensed, would be working in an exempt setting, either for as a non-profit employee or for a police department, which by definition is a government agency, which also would be an exempt setting. But if that was not the case, it seems possible that the bill could have, as it was written, might imply that someone could provide a psychotherapeutic services in any setting as long as they were supervised by a licensee. And that would be contrary to the board's licensing law. So I did reach out to the author's office to discuss this. And due to this concern, in the most recent amendments, which you see in your packet as the mock-up that you were provided yesterday, it is proposing adding Welfare and Institutions Code 5848.7D in order to clarify that the bill does not change the scope of practice for healthcare professionals or authorize the delivery of services in a manner not authorized by the board's licensing laws or the professions code. So that's not in print yet, but it is in the attachment they're proposing. Another concern that we asked them what had to do with the number, if there would be enough licensed professionals available to supervise, and they have since proposed adding licensed physicians that are psychiatrists and registered nurses with that psychiatry background into the mock-up amendments. And so with that, I will open up for discussion.
Thank you, Roseanne. Anyone on the floor? I see Leah.
So is this something we're going to take a position on? I just want to confirm that because usually our little paperwork says, and we.
Yeah, it is. It's a little bit weird that we don't have a bill in print, but I think it is, depending on what position the board is interested in taking, I think it is possible to craft a position with respect to the current, looking at the current version and the expected amendments in the mock-up. So we can work on that once the board kind of lands on what sort of a position they would like to take.
Okay. And just for an FYI, I have a friend who did this for like 10 years. She worked with the police department in Palm Springs and would go out on domestic violence calls and anything, or if they had a homeless person who might be having mental health issues. And it was very, very effective in keeping people a lot safer. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Susan, and then me, and then Kelly, right? Susan, we can't hear you.
The one thing I don't understand from this bill is what they are talking about program. Because what Leah mentioned about somebody who's attached to the police department in every community that we can think of, that makes sense. But what they're talking about and what everybody has been talking about lately in defunding the police departments, they're talking about taking away money for things police have to deal with that they don't know how to deal with. They don't know how to deal with child abuse, domestic disputes, all those kinds of things where probably the police department will make an arrangement with the Department of Mental Health and maybe they will hire licensed professionals to work solely with the department to go out on these kinds of calls. And in that case, it works. And I don't know about the Eugene, Oregon program, whether they were people who were solely attached to the department and that was their sole job. Do you know, Roseanne, whether that was true? But
with Cahoots, it's actually a separate organization that's partnered with the police department. I don't know if they're a nonprofit and charitable or how exactly they're set up, but it's actually a separate entity that is working alongside them.
But unless the police department or the sheriff's department or whatever authority it is willing to hire licensed people permanently, this couldn't possibly work because a call comes in, they have to go out right away. Often sheriffs are notified, hey, we're going to a house that has lots of guns in it and about child abuse. We need protection, please go with us. So the sheriffs will go with them, with the social worker. But unless the social workers are actually attached to the department, I can't see how this would work.
There's me, Kelly, and then I see Christina. It's interesting that this conversation just happened right after the item of CEU and education and anti-racism. I'm actually glad that the bill was revised in one way, but I need to really, because it's a latest revision, so I had to really digest that. But I understand the need of reviewing the relationships between, for instance, I'm speaking as a public member service providers. It's been extremely problematically, also statistically, every time that there are incidents of mental health distress or 5150s when the police shows up instead in lieu of a mental health provider. Actually, those are the cases where the police fails the most, and where cases of brutality have been witnessed and reported. So I know they were talking about statewide, but overall, as a service provider, I feel if I understood the revision of the bill, so forgive me, that's not the case. It's actually implementing a vision where the two experiences has to be completely separated, because the homeless situation that we have in our city has become a police problem when it shouldn't be. There's been a criminalization of poverty, so this conversation doesn't happen in a vacuum. So to me, looking for other ways where police intervention needs to be only when extremely necessary, when a social worker doesn't feel safe. But so far, that's not the reality. If I call 5150 in my region here, usually the PER team comes, which also is the licensed mental health provider with the police, but usually they look more like police officer than social workers or mental health providers. So the approach, even though they're right people, great people doing their work, but usually that's not how we have been successful in decriminalizing, also, pretty much working with the people that are going through a crisis. So if that bill goes in that directions, I would like to see it moving forward. But again, I reserve my statement on there just because I need to make sure that it came out at the last minute. So I want to make sure that we are talking about this. And then next was Kelly, I believe, and then Christina.
Thank you. I have concerns that the bill might need to be more nuanced, particularly with reference to what Mr. Despaciti said. But in general, anything that the board can do to support these programs where you have dual intervention by law enforcement and mental health providers is a good thing, particularly for those of us in rural communities where law enforcement does not necessarily have the same opportunities to get training or mental health funding and have to work with nonprofit agencies. It's not like rural law enforcement can suddenly drop $1,000 or $2,000 and hire a mental health therapist to join their force. We have to work with nonprofit agencies. Sometimes they are the primary sources of support in our rural communities. So anything that the board can do to support programs like this is obviously a very good thing.
May I say, Kelly, just that's true also not just in a rural community. I see it happening in many urban centers as well. Thank you. Sorry.
Totally.
Christina.
Oh, I did listen to that NPR story, when it first came out, and I really liked their idea for having the mental health professional to go with the law enforcement to respond to those non-crime related calls. Because oftentimes, it's about like the welfare checks, maybe somebody, it's a lot of those mental health issues that the people are responding. So, so I think that, there are definitely, the benefits, for that type of program. And I do believe that, the mental health professionals are in the position, to respond and, they are, and it will be effective. However, my problem is that, it looks like that, that the requirement of the supervision, is such a, it's part of the program. And yet I'm not really seeing, that the modality. So it's almost like, I'm feeling that, we're in a junction that, that we want to change, some of those crisis response and the collaboration with the mental health services to the, with the police department or the law enforcement. And yet, I don't know it's just interesting to me that, we're not talking about any service delivery model, and yet we're talking about whether we support having a licensees to supervise. So it's kind of like, it feels to me that it's putting, the cart before the horse, right? That's how it's, yeah. And so, so that's my problem, that about this bill. Not that I don't really support it, but I'm not really seeing the bigger picture, how the program, and the service delivery, so.
Thank you, Christina. I see John, and then Susan again.
Roseanne, quick question. As far as I see on this bill, and especially with Christina just said, this bill is only addressing a supervision model and not actual implementation of program, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John. That's really helpful. Susan, and then Wendy.
I'm very familiar with a lot of cases where social workers are sent out to very dangerous situations. And in those situations, they very often ask for sheriffs or police to go along with them. Sometimes sheriffs or police don't show up. All of those cases in Los Angeles County where a child was dead, in all of those cases, the social workers had requested the sheriffs to go along with them because they were afraid to go into these homes because there were guns, it was very scary situation. And in all the cases, the sheriffs didn't get the call or for some reason or other, didn't show up. So there's got to be something in this bill that writes from the opposite direction, because right now it's writing from the direction of when law enforcement is showing up, they need to have the help of the mental health community. But what happens when the mental health community is out there on their own? I think we should put something like that in the bill too. They need protection.
Thank you, Susan. Is it?
This is Sabina real quick. I think it was John who just pointed out, this is merely only, this bill that we're looking at right now only addresses the supervision component of mental health professionals working in one of those programs. So this isn't about the program yet. We don't know what that looks like. We don't have any other information, but this bill is narrow to just the supervision.
Correct. Thank you, Sabina, because that will help us to address the conversation too, because it was attached to the last minute. So it felt like all of a sudden it changed. My reality is not. Wendy, Roseanne.
It basically, you can assume, it assumes that the program already exists. So it kind of picks up there.
Makes sense. Wendy.
I guess I was just wondering if it might be time or look to Roseanne for a recommendation on a position. I agree with a lot of the comments made by a lot of the other board members. I think this is a direction it's important for the board to make a statement that we're supportive of these programs going forward and making sure that there's a more comprehensive approach to mental health crisis response and that mental health professionals are a part of that response. And so I think it's important that we make a statement on that. And I know this is kind of a limited bill dealing with supervision, but I think it's also important for us to make that statement too, that a program like this should be overseen by a mental health professional as well, and not, kind of continuing responses and policies and decisions that are made by others during a mental health crisis. So if it's appropriate to make kind of a conditional support based on the amendments that we anticipate seeing. And also in closing, I sorry for going on a little long. I also want to commend Roseanne for being able to work with the author to kind of work through the concerns and issues. I think great job on your part, and commend the author for being open to changes as well.
So Wendy, I think your motion is to take a position of support on this bill and have board staff work with the authors to make any non-substantive changes.
Yes, thank you for saying it more eloquently than I did.
Okay,
What
yeah.
I would recommend in this case is we have two versions of the bill. in your packet. We have the version that's in print, which is the version dated June 30th.
Right.
And then we have the mock-up amendments. So what I would recommend, and the main difference between the version in print applies the supervision to all the mental health professionals. They all have to be supervised by a licensee. The version that's the proposed basically expands the supervisors, and then it says any program, not the individuals. The program as a whole needs to be supervised by a licensee. So if the board is inclined to support both versions, then what I would recommend is you take a position on the June 30th, 2020 version as support, and then also do a support if amended to the mock-up amendments as well.
Okay.
If Wendy is open to that, I'll second it.
Yes,
So we have a motion second. I would like to go to the public to see if there are any other comments from the public. Steve?
Yes, Jan Lee.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the conversation on this very, very important bill. I just want to make a brief comment. We had a open forum for professional social workers on police defunding. And one of the comments made in that open forum, which I think is very applicable to this, is that social workers often do not have any kind of directional role in the program that they're working in with the police. So for example, in LA's Skid Row, social workers who work with police are often told the day before that they will be going out with police to remove the homeless from the sidewalks. So think about that. If we are mental health professionals, we don't just go out there the day of with the police and say, oh, by the way, you have to move, and if you don't move, the police are going to remove you. We have a whole system of work that we develop with people who are in crisis, with people who are homeless. We establish a relationship. We try to bring some self-awareness. We try to help people decide on their own what actions they're going to take. So this bill is really important. You know, we don't want social workers and other professionals to be co-opted by law enforcement and to be told what to do by law enforcement. That's their job. Our job is how do we help people who are really desperately in need of services. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. I concur with that sentiment, by the way. Any other public speaker?
I do not see any. No hands are raised.
How do I raise my hand?
Oh, Mary, who is this? Sorry, Mary. Are you on your phone?
Yes, I'm on my phone.
Okay. Sorry, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. What I'm hearing is that supervision is needed. Is needed when there is a crisis, correct? For the social worker. Is that what I'm understanding? Is that what they're?
Roseanne?
Is that what they are looking for supervision, to add supervision to the social workers when they're going to a crisis scenario? Or...
So basically what the bill is saying is that if there any time that there's a program or a pilot program that goes out either with or in place of law enforcement that has mental health professionals responding to emergency calls, that it needs to be supervised by a licensed mental health professional.
Okay. Well, before I became a therapist, I used to be a victim witness advocate. Okay. And one of the main reasons that I became a therapist is because of my experience as an advocate. However, to be very blunt and honest, one of the, I cannot remember the name of the person that just spoke previous myself, mentioned that it is the police responsibility or the authorities' responsibility and not so much the therapist. And it's a concern that I do have if they do apply this to somebody that is in the mental health program. because there needs to be really good collaboration and a continuity for those people that are going through the crisis. And like I believe it was Leah that mentioned something about an experience in LA that there was a social worker and there was nobody else there for that social worker, that the police never showed up. Well, unfortunately, I also had to deal with that when I was an advocate. It's more, I see it as more problematic doing it that way and including a social worker in it. To me, it will be best to have the advocate first and then the advocate to be able to work collaborative with the witness program, which that witness program that I used to work for, there was two of them, one in the city and one with the armed forces. And we worked together very well. And then they were referred to the therapist once they went through the crisis and were taken care of. Either they had to go to a shelter or place someplace else. So I don't know. I really have a concern right there for that particular social worker that will be doing this, if in case this comes about.
Thank you, Mary. Oh, sorry. Oh, that was the dog. Thank you, Mary. Steve, is anyone else? No? Steve, we can't hear you.
Rebecca.
Sorry, thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Just very briefly, NASW is in support of this bill and we have sent a letter.
Thank you, Rebecca. That's really helpful. Anyone else?
Other than a board member?
Yeah.
There we go. Christina.
So I want to apologize. I get a little confused about which version. So now I'm reading up, the mock-up, and I really see that, the focus of the programs are on any pilot program. Basically the focus is really on the mental health crisis. I think that's where it is at. And so, so for that, I think for mental health crisis, it will be, for us, it's about those welfare checks, or people threatening, to, commit suicide, that kind of stuff. And so I think if this bill looks like it's limited to, those mental health crisis call, and and then also, include not only, the mental health, any program, pilot program, but also with the behavioral health agencies. I think that really covers, a good, the scope, how services are being delivered. So I think this is actually, really, really good and very clear, to define that it's not just about any cost, but it's limited. So I just want to point it out.
Thank you, Christina. Leah, and then I will move to the motion again.
That's what I was going to say. Can we call the vote? That's all I wanted to do.
So we have a motion from Leah and a second, I apologize, from, no.
A motion from Wendy and a second from Leah.
Okay, there you go. Thank you so much.
I just need to get some clarification on the motion. So I have a support for the previous version of 8065 dated June 30th and support the most current version of 8065 if amended, and direct staff to work with author's office on non-substantive changes. Roseanne, was there specified a minimum attached to the current version of support?
Yes, so the motion was to support the amended June 30th version, and then support, if amended, the June 30th version if it's amended to the mock-ups that are provided in your packet.
Okay, thank you. I'll call the vote.
Yes.
Dr. Leah Brew?
Yes.
Deborah Brown?
Yes.
Max Disposti?
Yes.
Susan Friedman?
Yes.
Chris Jones?
Yes.
Kelly Ranasinga?
Yes.
John Sovek?
Yes.
Wendy Strack?
Yes.
Christina Wong?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. At this point, I don't know all of you, if we're getting hungry. So we should take a break of 30 minutes. It's 12:10 right now, so that we can reconvene at 12:40. And we are following Roseanne's long list of bills that we had to discuss. So we'll see you in 30 minutes. Thank you so much.